Out of the gates and ready to go. OutKick 360 underway. Nashville, our location, 6th and Peabody's, where you can find us in studio with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Friday is here. The energy is cranked up.
Oh, yes.
Just off of Broadway. You can feel it. Football season's almost here as well. 2 weeks away from the majority of the SEC playing, and a week away from Vanderbilt kicking things off against Hawaii. Hawaii's already talking trash. That's a bad sign.
A bad sign for whom exactly is the real question.
I don't know. Maybe the fans who have to watch.
Is Hawaii director of player development talking trash about Vandy both a good thing for Vandy and a bad thing for Vandy? Much like if James Franklin left? This is the new social experiment.
Guys,
I think it's a good one.
What's up?
How we doing?
I am ready for a big show. We're not limping into the week.
No.
This is sort of my rallying cry for every Friday show. We don't want to limp into the weekend. We want to sprint through. We want to sprint into the weekend.
We have Bobby Carpenter, who will join us. We're talking college football headlines with him. That will be in about 20 minutes. But we kick off today's show with a friend of the show, a man who helped us get our second contract, I believe, helped us get a raise when we were broadcasting only in Nashville. We would like to think we helped him get some sort of benefit out of doing a weekly radio show with us.
Get some dogs adopted at least.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's face it, there was no benefit for him. It was only benefit for us.
Yeah, we were the tag-alongs there. Buccaneers cornerback Logan Ryan joins us on OutKick 360. Of course, the Bucs take on the Titans tomorrow in preseason action, but Logan's really in town for this show. Logan, what's up, man? Good to see you.
What's going on, man? Definitely in town for the show and the show only. So this is another take of the Logan Ryan show.
Yeah.
Second season. So I'm excited for it.
You're making even less than you did before. Hard to believe, but true.
How are
Not
things?
possible, but yeah.
How are things in Tampa and getting ready for the season?
Things are great. Tampa's where I had a house, so I get to be with my family full time. Don't have to split time, and I think for me that's always been a big family man. So the weather's good, the taxes are good, the team's pretty good, and I'm with my family, so I can't complain.
So you, during practice yesterday, came from the middle of the field and hit Titans rookie running back Hassan Haskins near the goal line. And he did not score, which was your job at the moment. And I wrote that you hit him, and it sounded like a car crash. I thought you doing your job was the story of that hit. I'm getting destroyed because the Titans put out a picture that has you on the ground looking like you took the worst of it, and Haskins still on his feet, though he ended up going out of bounds or to the ground. Can you give us your view of this play, which hopefully lets me off the hook a little bit?
Was Paul wrong, or is he dead on with this, Logan?
It's I guess Paul's defending me. It's a good side. It's football, man. It's contact, and I think I'm a football player. I love contact. Look, it's a practice. It's not a game. It's not live tackling. I'm running over there to thud up, I guess, which is tough for DBs in those situations because normally you will tackle running backs a little bit lower, right? So I'm going over there to thud up, and I'm not gonna lie, he lowered his shoulder and got underneath me, and he definitely got his side of it. So I'll give him that. But I mean, we both went down. I went to the ground. He ended up going to the ground. I wasn't trying to prevent him from scoring or anything like that. I went over there to kind of thud up because that's just the nature of practice, and he definitely got underneath me on that, and that's just football. But the game it's live tackling, so it's a tackle in the game. I'll go a little lower in the game, obviously, but it's practice. There was no ill will, nothing illegal went on. He just lowered his pads, and I lowered mine.
Paul, let me translate for you. You're dead wrong on your description.
Well, he said he wound up going to the ground. So I'm right on that. But yeah, I realize you're not technically preventing him from scoring. But by getting there and hitting him, the result would have been preventing him from scoring if it was real football.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he wouldn't have scored. No way he's scoring on that. If it's real football, I would have tackled him much easier than that. But that's why these joint practices lead to a lot of fights, because the tempo, it's hard to manage. When I'm going over there to thud you up but not try to tackle you, and you try to lower your shoulder and try to run me over, there's two different types of takes on that. In a game, I obviously would intend to tackle you. in a game, you would tend to run me over. But in practice, you can't tackle. We didn't have pants on. We didn't have thigh pads on. So I think that's why you see a lot of these joint practices lead to some fights and some scuffles, because some people take the tempos different ways. But for me, it's football. It's all fair in the game. I take some wins and losses. That comes with the sport. But that's why it's hard to kind of dictate those tempos in practice.
This skirmish at the end of practice, I didn't think it was much. Some people are casting it as a brawl. In the span of training camp fights that you've seen, where would you rank it?
Yeah, it was nothing. A couple of the big guys, I don't know, exchanging blows, but guys are punching helmets or slapping helmets. There's nothing there. In my training camp fights over 10 years, that doesn't rank up there.
Logan Ryan, our guest, are you officially a safety now?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm listed that for Pro Bowl voting.
Okay.
But I play all over. I think I'll play a lot of the positions you see me play in Tennessee. And I think the beauty of Todd Bowles and kind of defensive-minded coaches or defensive coordinators like that is, they get to move me around. I think me playing multiple positions is honestly my skill set, and I have a lot of fun doing that.
So Buccaneers defensive back Logan Ryan with us.
So
yeah.
you mentioned Logan, Todd Bowles taking over now as head coach. I know you weren't there a year ago, but I'm curious of your take just talking to your teammates. Is there a change of vibe around the team, or is it more just business as usual going from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles because Bowles was on the staff a year ago?
I think a lot is the same in terms of scheduling and day-to-day for those guys. Like I said, I wasn't there to say. I know defensively he's tough on us defensive players. He's tough on his safeties, on his defensive back, because he played it in the NFL and he's played it his whole life and coached it. So I think that's pretty much the same. But he's definitely no nonsense, and he's definitely not happy with how last year ended for the Bucs, and have higher aspirations than a playoff loss. So he's definitely been honest about the details, and the expectations are through the roof with this team because that's the standards he's set, and that's what he demands us every day.
Just the four of us talking here, Logan. We know that you are tied in. Where's Tom?
I have no idea. I'm not tied in on that one. So that one's above my pay grade, but I know, that his family's okay and all that. But honestly, I don't know. And the crazy thing is, to us, the players, it's really, not a big deal. I think a lot of this stuff makes a bigger deal outside the building because, he's played 20 plus years and never really missed a day. So if he's missing some days, I think, he'll be prepared. And he's going to do a good job at quarterback.
Did Todd Bowles talk to you guys about this, or is it just something that's really not spoken about when he left the team for an undecided amount of time?
I mean, he addressed us, before it came out to the media, I guess. He told us that Tom is going to be away for the team for some time, and he's handling some personal issues, and it was discussed, and it's not a surprise, and to continue business as usual and, continue doing our thing. So, that's what we took it, and that seems to be the truth, and that's what's playing out. And Tom's going to return at some point, and then when he does, it's continue business as usual. It doesn't affect what I do day to day.
Does the competitor in you get a little bit bummed that you don't get those reps going against the greatest of all time in practice, even if it's for just 10 to 14 days, you wanting to sharpen your skills going into the season? Or is that not something you really think about?
I got to play whoever's out there. So yeah, I love, I got to play against Tom for a couple of weeks, and that's more than I got to play in the last couple of years. So I did miss that, and that's great. But Blaine, Blaine's a gunslinger. I've been teammates with Blaine on multiple teams on the Titans, as you know, and I get to talk a lot of trash to Blaine too. So it's still fun for me. I got a great rapport with Blaine, and I try to intercept him every day and let him know about it. So I still have fun at practice.
Logan Ryan with us on OutKick 360. Just to make sure that you're on the same page that we are, there's no chance that Brady's not there for the Dallas game in Week 1, right?
Yeah, I can't put out no official statements. Come on, fellas. This is supposed to be a Logan Ryan show.
Well, I'm just we were saying we didn't want to speculate that far yesterday, but maybe should we follow along with what everyone else is talking about?
Yeah, I just say stay tuned, and then that's when we'll know. But I don't know. I have no insider information for you guys, and honestly, I have no insider information on anything different. So I was told everything you guys were told, I believe, and that seems to hold true so far.
Year 10 for you. This is like a marquee, a milestone moment for anyone. I remember whenever you were discussing the contract in Tennessee I believe would end and put you in year 7 or going into year 8. And that was going to be awesome for you because you had the chance for the 3rd contract. But now year 10, as you look back on what you've been able to accomplish, you do have to take some, there's a notch there. You're checking off a box of a career that most people don't have.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I take a lot of pride in my career, just because I felt like I went about it the best way I could. No shortcuts, no handouts. I was drafted in this league, not from the most notarized school of Rutgers, but I was drafted. I had to work for every rep I had got in New England. I was part of Super Bowl teams. I, took a chance in free agency and signed with a team like Tennessee, who believed in me and helped that franchise obviously take great steps into prominence and be a great franchise. And like we're practicing against the Titans, and just the way that we're preparing for the Titans, or what the Titans just talked about around the league, has changed so much in the last 5 years from what it was when you played the Titans before. And I feel like I've helped be a part of that. And guys like Kevin Byard and Derek have took it to the next level. And there was great competition of back and forth with them. And then, stuff off the field and everything like that. But yeah, it's been a great ride so far. I'm not done yet, but I've had a lot of fun with it, and I'm proud of what I've done, the good, the bad, the wins and the losses. But there's been more wins than losses, so that's always good.
You've been a great media guy, particularly without the confines of the Patriots. You're coming off 2 years in New York where things weren't great for the Giants, and it's the biggest press corps in the country. How did that go?
I think it went great. I won the award for whatever,
The Good Guy
the
Award.
Good Guy Award, So that was cool. I opened up a lot personally. I think starting doing the show with you guys, I opened up about my wife almost dying. I opened about losing a child. I opened up a lot just to relate to people, that people got to understand that athletes, but myself included, I'm just a regular person out here who has a skill set, but I'm a father, a husband first. So I opened up a lot about that. I said a lot of great things. I said some bad things, some things I regret, obviously, but I learned. It was in front of the spotlight, and I try to use the spotlight to do good things, to talk about my charity, RARF, which we know about, the Animal Rescue Foundation, to talk about the company I started with my father with police reform and training our police officers, and trying to be a middle ground to that whole thing we have going on in our country. So I try to use it for good, and I try to be a good role model in the locker room. So it was all good. That's where I'm from, born and raised in New Jersey. So it was good to be there, and I try to shine light on those people in that area.
Logan, one of the things I'm sure that you regret to some degree is the comments about the Tennessee fan base, which I know you were discussing the Giants fan base in that. But you called me and we discussed it. Have you heard from any of the fans here so far, just around town or at the Titans practice facility?
I've from those that I have seen, or the Titans, it's been great, man. It's been great to be back there. The changes, they got a parking deck now. the stuff that's there is just awesome to see. I'm like, wow, where is this all at? But no, man, to speak about that, it was something that was taken out of context, and I didn't really clarify myself. I obviously apologized numerous times because I did not mean that. What I was trying to portray at the time was the New York Giants were struggling, and they asked me, do these young players, do they feel the need to put on a good performance for the fans who pay their hard-paying money? And I say, absolutely. They absolutely should. These fans do pay their hard-earned money, and they deserve to see a good performance. And they need to understand a team like New York's historic and it's been around since the beginning, and the fan base is whatever, is great. And I said, in my early days in Tennessee, it was not like that. And I said it was damn near non-existent. And we were trying to get fans in the stands. Now, obviously, they took the quote, Tennessee's fan base is non-existent. And that's the wrong word to say. All I was trying to say is the early stages of me getting there in 2016, 2017, the stands were not packed. But there was always a loyal fan base, and that fan base grew tremendously to now they're the number one seed in the AFC. And now you see those fans, those stands are packed. So I was not trying to say that I don't have love for the fan base. The fans never did anything for me. I don't love the fans. I was just trying to make the point that there was times where that stadium was half full. And that was an issue. I know I'm on the organization. How do we get the fan engagement up? Well, the fan engagement's up. Tennessee is a hot place to be. Nashville's great. The team is good. And I think I was a part of that. But I never meant to offend the fans. I never meant to say they didn't support me, because they did. And I love my chapter in Tennessee. I have no regrets about it. So I could have easily clarified that and made that, but to not, belabor the point too much, I just wanted to apologize and move on and let them know it was all love, which it is. But I was just trying to express there were days where that stadium wasn't full as it is today. And I think winning changed that. And winning needs to change that, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and you also entered right after Amy Adams-Strunk took over, the new owner of the Titans, the majority owner of the Titans now, coming out of Tommy Smith running the team, which was
a disaster.
A huge disaster. So there's some background there for the audience that doesn't know the backstory of whenever you signed as a free agent on that 3-year contract. How much longer do you want to play?
It's year to year. It's honestly year to year. I want to see what, I'm all in this year, and then I'll take it from there. I don't have a set, 10 was always just a goal in mind, just because it's a set number, double digits, but I don't say it's 12, it's 13. I just think, COVID changed that for a lot of people's perspective on work and life. But I want to play year to year, and this year I'm definitely all in, and then we'll see. But I love life off the field as well. And like I said, I keep expressing how much I love being a husband and a father, but I really enjoy that time with my kids. And but I'm still having a lot of fun playing football, man. I'm having tons of fun.
Well, I know you had the house in Tampa. Was that the draw, or was the Super Bowl aspirations and playing with Brady again the draw?
I mean everything. I mean both. I mean, I think you guys know I'm very. I did a lot of thinking before coming to Tennessee. I did a lot of research and talk with Jason McCourty about the Tennessee Titans before I signed there. There was other teams interested. I did a lot of thinking about New York. That was a family move to go back to be close to family with COVID and be able to play an organization where I kind of grew up nearby, and Rutgers and everything. There was a lot there. And, Tampa at this point in my career, having a house there, that was a huge plus. Having Brady was a huge plus. Having a championship winning roster is a huge plus. But Todd Bowles is a Jersey guy. Coach Rock, our corner coach, he is from Camden, New Jersey, where I was born. He actually knew my dad growing up. So there's a lot of similarities on his staff that is really close to me and my family that I've known since I was in high school.
Is Rutgers about to take off now that your guy Greg Schiano is back?
Yeah, man. I don't. Todd Bowles' son just signed to Georgia. One of them's at Rutgers. His other one's a 5-star. Just went to Georgia. Rutgers must not have been offering enough NIL. I mean, I said, Todd, what's going on here? I thought we had a little, Bowles to Rutgers pipeline going on. I don't want to see your All-American going to Georgia. So I got to talk about the NIL budget. But, yeah,
you can help that.
It's tough. Yes, you could.
Yeah, it's tough in college football, man. It's I don't know what it is. I can't blame a kid, because this is life-changing money. This is money that, family needs. And if you're a 14-year-old tennis player or 18-year-old tennis player is getting offered 6 figures to go somewhere, you probably would go take that deal. So I don't know. Recruiting's changed. So I know Schiano's a great coach, but how to recruit, he's a great recruiter, but recruiting is now money. So that's tough.
How many dogs you think you've helped get adopted in your time pushing the cause?
Oh man, I can't put a number on it. I know, Amy, Miss Adams-Strunk, Amy, and myself helped hundreds of dogs in our time just with little events we've done. I would, I don't know, maybe in the thousands, but it's it's something that's grew and grew, and I met a lot of great people. And I always said that animal people are my people, dog people are my people. So I'll be shouting out NHA a lot this week. So be on the lookout for that. But I definitely want to shine light. It's a great animal shelter in this city, and they make it really easy to adopt an animal.
Give it a shout out now.
Yeah, man. Shout out to NHA. Laura, who's the head of that, has done a great job. I know Miss Amy, the owner of the Titans, does a great job there. And, I keep telling people, just rescue animals are the best animals. Second chance in life. We rescue all types of pets and animals and stuff like that, and we love it. And anyone who's looking for a type of dog or a certain breed, try to check and rescue first and foremost, because you'll be surprised what you can find, and those have been the best animals I've ever had. So it's a cause that's obviously my cause, but it's a cause that is just close to my heart. I know a lot of people out there busting their butt in that industry who make very little money, and I always try to shout them out and give them their due, because there's a lot of great people who make this world go around and don't get paid what I get paid.
Ryan, animalrescuefoundation.org, or it's actually RARF.org, RARF.org, for more information on Logan's foundation, with he and his wife Ashley do a great job. You're not playing tomorrow, right?
I am playing. You will see me out there. I'm making my my
Wow.
preseason debut, my Bucs debut back in Nashville. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Did you play last year in the preseason?
In New York?
Yeah.
Did I play last year?
You don't seem like a guy.
I think I played. I think I might have played.
You don't need these reps.
Yeah, we played the Patriots. I think I might have played a quarter or something. So I'll be out there.
You don't need those reps, man. You're in year 10.
Hey, man, if I can get a ball, if I can pick a ball off, it's a great way to start. It's a great way to start the year. If number 25 comes to run me over, it's a great way to get him back. So I'll be all right with it. I like playing football. So if I got to go out there and sit on the sideline for 4 quarters, if I could play a little bit, I never mind.
Hey, on the way out, I want to ask you briefly about the receivers. Julio barely practiced here last year, and and hamstring injuries here and there, and he was out more than he was in. All accounts, and we saw a brief glimpse of it, but talking with those who cover the Bucs, they say he's been incredible. He's exceeded expectations since he joined your team. Your thoughts on him, and if you don't mind, your thoughts on the Titans wide receiving core that you faced this week.
Yeah. Shoot, man, I don't know what, I didn't play Julio last year or study him. We didn't come across him, but man, he looks like Julio Jones to me. I played against Julio Jones for years in this league, and he's Julio Jones. So his body's good. He's running fast. He's strong. He's tough to cover. And, we have some guys that are banged up, our receivers, but we have a good receiving core. And I'm excited to see when you put Mike Evans and Julio out there and Godwin and Russell Gage. You can't double them all. So I think it should be if he's healthy, I think it should be a great year for Julio, because Julio is he's getting open, and Tom throws to whoever's open.
Kyle Phillips, catch your eye among the Titans guy, the new slot 18.
Yeah, you know what? I was really impressed. Like, I don't know their names and stuff like that, but I was really impressed with the slot receivers, because they remind me of the New England guys, that I played against so much back in my day. And not to say that they're at that level yet, but they're very shifty. They know how to create space and get open. And, the Titans aren't a typical, like, drop back passing offense. A lot of it's play action. A lot of it's based on the run game. In practice, without Derek practice, it's hard to really get that look. A lot of it's pick and rubs. But, yeah, they have some shifty guys in there that'll do a good job for them. I was very surprised and pleased with those slot receivers. I think they're good young receivers.
At Real Logan Ryan on Twitter is where you can find him. It has been a great edition of the Logan Ryan Show on OutKick 360. From the hotel is where I'm guessing you are right now, and I'm surprised to know that you're playing tomorrow, and I appreciate you saying that Tom Brady would be throwing to the receivers in the regular season.
Didn't say that. I did not say that.
You mentioned Brady. You mentioned Brady. Brady throws a good ball.
He did. Yeah, he does throw a good ball. So I say he throws to who's open. Whenever he's back, he's going to throw to who's open.
Hey.
I'm not at the hotel. I'm actually getting treatment, getting body work with Kaylee Calhoun at Smart Core Method, the best body work person in the NFL, works with Kevin Byard. I'm waiting for Kevin to finish, so me and Kevin go out to lunch.
Nice.
So me and Kevin are getting stuff done. We're going to go out to lunch, and and catch up. So
that's awesome.
All the success that I have as a Titan or in general, or Kevin's had, or Derrick Henry's had, or Brett Kern, it's because we all use the same person pretty much 3-4 times a week.
Well,
so give her all the
Kaylee's
credit.
office looks like a hotel room, so you can let her know that from the backdrop that you have.
Yeah, it's very nice backdrop.
And I know
Kevin's in the other room, so I didn't want to interrupt him, so I had to come in here.
Yeah, it's all good. And Logan was worried. He only had the phone. I said, no worries. We had Ike Taylor on from his dually truck yesterday, and the clarity on your phone has been amazing.
Yeah,
so
Ike barely had his phone on yesterday.
Well, she's got great,
way more attentive.
She's got great Wi-Fi there too.
Absolutely.
Great, top of the line.
Logan,
she gets paid well. We pay her well.
Thank you for the time, man, and great to see you. Hopefully, we'll catch up after the game tomorrow.
Good luck. All season.
Man, appreciate it. Why is Titan Twitter taking so many shots at me, man? So many pictures, and what's going on?
Well,
they're trolling. Apparently there's a troll behind. I don't know who's behind Titans social media, but it's probably a troll.
I know who's behind Titans social media,
and I'm willing to bet it's a troll.
It's all love, guys.
The real storyline is Paul is taking up for you.
Well,
hey, Paul, I appreciate
I took up for you plenty.
We're going to get into Paul's description of the play after we hang up with you too, and we'll let the public decide who's right based on your description of the play and Paul's description. But he was definitely very nice to you in the tweet, so he's defending you. He's all in on Logan Ryan now.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, Paul is right. I said the kid lowered his pads on me. It's not a full tackle, right? So I'm not trying to tackle him. He lowered his pads on me, which sometimes is a violation in these practices, but I let it go. And he fell down and didn't score. So Paul's right. He didn't score. I did my job. But at the end of the day, we're not supposed to tackle anyway. So we can let it go, and it can look good for Twitter, and it can look good for practice. But at the end of the day, you got to play the game. So I take myself 10 out of 10 in the game. And that's what I've been doing for 10 years. So we get to see on Saturday night.
Hey, stay healthy this season. Good luck as you go into the regular season against Dallas. And congrats on year 10, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Thanks for everything.
Thanks, Logan.
There's Logan Ryan, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive back. Was moving around a lot in the secondary this preseason. And even I think on the depth chart, they had listed him as a safety. No safety is Bobby Carpenter, former linebacker, about to join us. College football discussion when we return with Bobby Carpenter on OutKick 360. Coming up, Scott Frost is talking about his offensive lineman in Nebraska throwing up 10 to 20 times per practice. We'll detail that. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. Our thanks to Logan Ryan for joining us and Bobby Carpenter for his patience during the break there. He is sporting the Ohio State Buckeye gear today and always. Bobby, how are you, man?
Oh, gentlemen, I'm good. Just trying to survive and this rough night from the Kenny Chesney concert last night. So it was it was a long one. Probably should have taken off my morning show this morning, but I didn't. I persevered off about 3.5, 4 hours of sleep, which is absolutely remarkable. I still can't believe I was able to get it.
Did you get a box like the last concert you went to?
I don't think anyone's ever watched a Kenny Chesney show sober, so that would track. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I got a chance to meet Kenny about 15 years ago now, and through one of your guys, Jason Witten. And it's ironic, Kenny's head of security runs all of his stuff, is actually from Dayton, Ohio. So he's a big Buckeyes fan. So whenever Kenny comes in town, they take care of us, give us the royal treatment. So usually up on the side stage or right down in the pit, right there, hanging out in the vibe room before and after. So got a chance to say hi to him before he went on stage last night. And it's a pretty good time, but traffic getting in and out was rough. And my alarm clock going off this morning at 5 o'clock was even rougher.
Scale of 1 to 10, how bad was it the morning after?
I would probably give it a 7.5 to an 8.
Knowing that, it's your loyalty to the show never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, knowing that you're a guy who's played with a lot of pain over the course of your career too, to say 7.5 or 8, that's probably close to a 17.5 or 18 on a scale of 1 to 10 for most humans. So it must have been really bad.
I don't normally drink coffee in the morning, and I like to work out. So I didn't work out today. I did drink a coffee this morning. That kind of helped me get through it. I'm not sure exactly where I was on the scale from drinking to hungover. I think that it was sliding to hungover, but I feel like when I was sitting there, may have had a hard time reading some things this morning. But like I was saying, hey, the show was great. Everybody loved it. They had a good time. Because if I wouldn't have known you went to the concert, you weren't talking about it, because you wouldn't have known. So I'm like, all right, then I guess it was good. All's well that ends well.
So the AP preseason top 25 comes out. Alabama's number 1. Ohio State is number 2. And then for me, there's a drop-off because I don't know. Georgia's going to be very good. I don't know where they are on in the order of how close they are to Ohio State to how close they are to 4, 5, and 6 in the poll based on what they lost to the NFL. Do you feel the same way, or do you think it's a 3-team race for the championship right now? Because Ohio State and Alabama seem to be head and shoulders above the pack right now.
You would think that, but a lot of Georgia, it's going to depend, obviously. To Stetson Bennett, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say he's a great quarterback, but in big moments, he did play great last year when he really needed to. Now, they won the national championship, and not to take anything away from them, they were aided. Alabama's receiving corps was absolutely decimated the second time they played him, and then I think that helped. That Georgia defense lost a lot, but they have a ton coming back still. But are they going to be able, to move the football with consistency? And I don't know if you can have that recipe with what they did last year. Kind of a game manager, a quarterback running the football, and find a way to win in 2022. They did it one season, but I don't know if you can continue to win that way. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Kirby Smart has found a methodology, but when Nick Saban has gone away from it, I feel like it's probably not the most viable. So they have a ton of talent. They're going to be really good on defense. Offensively, will they be good enough, or can that defense be as dominant as they absolutely were last year? Because that was one of the game changers for them. So I think there is a little bit of separation maybe between the top 2 in Georgia. But honestly, I think the biggest drop comes probably after 3, because as you look around at 4, you have Clemson there, lost both coordinators. DJ wasn't very good last year. That defense is going to be really good, but offensive line-wise, can they be better? Can they get that running game going to help, DJ? And then, you look at 5 is Notre Dame. You've got A&M, coming in there into Michigan. I feel like kind of 4 through 6, especially 5 through 6, you could kind of almost put, or 5 through 8, 4 through 8, you can kind of mix up and mix and match. And I don't know if anybody would really feel that differently, based upon where they'd be at.
As a Big Ten guy, how nice is it to have Kevin Warren and his leadership right now, running the conference, the TV deal, which was announced, his comments about further expansion, wanting to get to 20. He's not resting on where he is with 16, and the potential to also go beyond that if they so choose. And they have a guy with a vision in spreading it out on the TV markets that looks very similar to what the NFL does.
Yeah, it is kind of an NFL model, and that's where he came from before he became the Big Ten commissioner. It's interesting the fact that he threw out there, wanting to expand and they're trying to get to a number in 20, because that now gives you expectations. And so people are going to expect that to happen. So you better follow through. You better land the plane. And I don't think anybody's going to sit there and say he did a fantastic job managing COVID by any stretch. So this would be an opportunity then I think for a little bit of redemption. Got in UCLA, USC, bringing them aboard. Did a pretty good job with the TV contract. That looks to be one of the better ones I think you could negotiate. But now you're talking about expansion. Got to get 4 more schools. Who are they ultimately going to be? And are they going to be the right schools? Because people are going to look at this thing with a fine-tooth comb. So will the other universities as part of the Big Ten. They're going to make sure that they get some big hitters, probably including Notre Dame. I don't know how that's going to work as they're getting their new TV deal set up. And so that's going to be really interesting as the next couple of seasons progress, because you would want to think that they would try to have that locked in place by 2025. So you really have 2.5 years to kind of get this thing rolling to see who you can add and what it will ultimately look like.
When you're a veteran in the NFL, you hear a lot of the same stuff over and over and over in your position meeting room. And the coach, to a degree, I've been told, has to coach to the least smart guy in the room, the guy who doesn't have it down yet. So if you're a smart veteran and you're hearing this same install tips and all of that stuff over and over and over again, how does it stay fresh to you? What do coaches do to try to keep it fresh to you? What was your experience like in this?
It's pretty interesting when you say that, because, any education, you're teaching to the least common denominator. You have to make sure that everybody is getting something out of this and everybody can ultimately understand it. And so that means whoever is in the room that maybe you have the hardest time picking it up, you have to make sure you're bringing them along, especially if they're a talented player. I would say this, I got some great advice from, I guess he's now Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. He was with me in Dallas. It was his final season. Loved watching Aaron growing up, and then got a chance to play with him. And Greg Ellis, who was in like his 8th or 9th year with Dallas. And, they're like, you get this, you're picking up the scheme, you understand all these things. It may seem monotonous, but both of those guys, I'd watch them before practice, and they'd go out and they had this specific warm-up routine that had, all these different nuances for their position about how to kind of improve your skills. I asked the guys about this. You've been doing this for 8, 12, 13 years. I mean, you've got everything down. He's like, well, as you get older, your body begins to fail you. And so you need to be even better at this stuff, technique-wise and understanding of the game. And so those guys kind of like one theme that they kind of talked about, like pick one thing every day to get better at. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It's like it could be as simple as, a step here or a hand placement there or whatever it is you're working on. And he's like, just try to get better at it and focus on that all day as you're trying to work, obviously, through the scheme and practice and take reps, but make that kind of your primary focus. He goes, if you do that, you'll be able to stay at the top. You'll be able to continue to improve. And he goes, it helps avoid the monotony, because you think you're a perfect player, but once you start looking at something that you need to improve upon, you realize like how precise and how exact you can ultimately be. And after watching those guys do it as long as they did at a high level, especially a guy like Aaron Glenn, who is a 5'7", 5'8" corner, who played 13, 14 years, that's how you ultimately do it. And I think that avoids the fact that you may have the same scheme, same install, all this different stuff, but you're always going to need to improve, and there's always little areas you can touch up on. And by doing that like pulls your focus in. And when you're watching film and you're analyzing yourself, you're going to look at that with a critical eye instead of just saying, yeah, was that good or bad? Okay, it was good as a whole, but could it be better? And was there one little thing I could really work on?
Bobby, is Scott Frost admitting that Dominic Raiola, the offensive line coach, is causing his offensive linemen to vomit 15 to 20 times per practice? Is that a good thing or a bad thing for Nebraska that this is happening?
You know, it's definitely a thing if it actually is happening. I've never heard of that. I mean, I watched a guy puke once or twice a season. You know, I mean, unless your guys are coming in, and he said they're in great shape, it's just they're working that hard. I don't know if that's possible.
It's not healthy, I feel like, though. It was in any extent. Like, that's not what you want, even if they're in shape or not.
So, and one of the guys, I saw this quote coming out this morning, and the show after us was talking about it on my local show. And he goes, how many offensive linemen do you have on a college football team? Like, probably, you know, you'd like to probably have 12 scholarship guys, maybe 10 to 12, and, you know, a handful of walk-ons, you know, maybe 16, 17 guys out of 100. And they're like, well, if he's puking 20, that means some guys are puking multiple times during practice. Like, and I mean, I think like multiple sessions. Like, I don't know how that's possible unless you have your guys, offensive linemen, running, you know, time to miles, and you're just pressing them to the brink, which isn't really functionally specific for what you're trying to do. And I don't think that's making you a better offensive lineman. I don't know how you would possibly be able to get that done as a coach. So I think that might be a slight hyperbole. I hope they're working hard. I hope Dominic Raiola is grinding them out there, and I hope that they're getting better and all of those things. But to say that, either A, your guys are in terrible shape, B, you've recruited guys who are just pukers in general, which I've been around some of those guys. Like, I played with a guy at Ohio State who literally threw up before every practice, every workout, every game. And I don't know if it was anxiety, if it was nerves. It's just what he was. But the word's a lie. Like, it can't be true. Like, there's those things cannot coexist all together in the same realm, because I guess there's guys who have played a lot longer than I have, but I've never seen or heard of anything like that.
Bobby Carpenter joins us no matter the circumstances on OutKick 360 each Friday. Follow him on Twitter at bcarp3. Go drink some Pedialyte and get ready for a big weekend, man.
Nap it up.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. There's Bobby Carpenter. Hurting, but always excellent.
Hurting, but
love having him
strong.
on.
Damn Kenny Chesney. You got another one.
That'll teach you.
Get you every time. Chesney will get you every time.
Coming up, young people are not drinking enough in Japan, and it's causing a lot of financial strife for the country. Details on that.
Give him
plus
Kenny
some
Chesney.
plus some other
We'll remedy that problem
sports
real quick.
headlines coming up on OutKick 360. So Japan is promoting more drinking across the country. OutKick 360 rolls on.
The legal
what's their
drinking
issue?
age. The legal drinking age is 20, but the government's been hit in the pocket because COVID-19 restrictions and people changing their lifestyle. It's caused sales and thus liquor tax revenues to plummet. They're the third largest economy in the world. So the government has come up with a plan. Imagine this in America. Sake Viva, overseen by the National Tax Agency, invites participants to submit ideas on how to, quote, stimulate demand among young people, unquote, for alcohol through new services, promotional methods, products, designs, and even sales techniques using AI or the metaverse, according to the official competition website.
This is the opposite of
Chad, this is right up your alley.
Yeah, this is opposite of I should move to Tokyo. This is opposite of the More You Know campaign from NBC back in the day.
Yeah.
We're doing that in reverse. Let's get kids on alcohol, not away from it. It's time to get them. We got to get this country interested in alcohol again. Imagine being the politician that runs on that platform.
What if there's a politician who comes in and says, I really like this and I want to take it further? Let's get smoking.
What other vices can we pick up in this country? I'm for all of them.
I mean, this is real simple, and it could be a fantastic business model for OutKick and OutKick 360. We partner with Old Smoky Distillery and Yeehaw Brewery,
Yes.
Tokyo.
and we head to Japan.
Hit the road.
You want to entice drinking? We've got 25 flavors of moonshine here.
And
at
it is
6th and
loaded
Peabody.
out there.
You were
Yeah.
never going to see a party like our show in Osaka coming up in 2023.
Teresa read me this last night, and we just could not fathom the idea that a country would be pushing its young people to drink as opposed to trying to get them to calm down.
We're going to bring all your corn liquor to all of Japan.
Is it sake or bus there? Like, is that all you're drinking over there?
I don't know.
They're really big into
Sapporo.
like Jack Daniels, Tennessee whiskey. They're big into that. That's like a delicacy to them. Like, that's a huge
Where are you
deal
getting
if you have that.
We're sitting on a gold mine here then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we bring the Old Smoky
You
Moonshine
can't
brand
get this
there.
land, though.
And I mean, that's going to be
We need a
something
much
that
smaller
you could
facility.
probably upcharge big time over there.
Send some of the butter pecan or caramel whiskey there too.
This is a huge complex of one level. We would have to go vertical there.
Yes, you're not going to find a city block that's necessary for
City
6th and
block in
Peabody.
Tokyo.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360.
I feel like, and maybe this is a problem with the film industry, but movies and television portray Japanese people as those who can't hold their liquor. Like a lot of times they're like stumbling
they're going to prove
out of
us wrong.
They're stumbling out of a bar or something, or it's a karaoke, very prominent in their culture also. There's drunken slurring.
How do you do karaoke without drinking
While
heavily?
singing Kenny Rogers, the gambler from
I don't know if you do.
Those
Tokyo.
to go together, right? So karaoke might be the next thing that they need to promote. That's probably taking a hit.
That's, I mean, from a marketing perspective, more karaoke bars, more liquor sales.
Scott Frost is
get it
promoting
We'll hit you with an update.
locker room health, or is he? He's boasting about the throwing up that's going on in their offensive line. It's bizarre. It's part of the college football headlines today. We'll do that and much more straight ahead. Hour number 2 next of OutKick 360. It's a great day. Friday is here. 6th and Peabody, the location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Something that just feels odd to me, guys. It's going to take some getting used to. And I realize there's always an example of this, and we will have a version of an example of what I'm about to bring up coming up later in the show, because the new theme for Thursday Night Football has been released from Amazon. So we'll be discussing that a bit later. But did you see the tweet from CBS Sports? Taking a dig at the SEC, but not openly admitting it. They have a logo that just says Think Big with the Big Ten announcement, and it is a highlight reel of Big Ten football with the CBS college football theme underneath it. It's odd. Because you think when that theme hits, it is Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, and Alabama's taking the field against Georgia.
You don't think of it as college football music. You think of it as Southeastern college football music.
That's the SEC CBS theme. That's what I think. And they have put that to their Big Ten coverage, saying, think big, coming soon, and it's the Big Ten with that same theme.
So
I love the theme. I'm glad they're not getting away with it.
I get that. We're loyal to the banner that you're currently under a lot in life, right? When you're paid by something, when you're working somewhere, there's a lot of that goes around. But it is so freaking phony that CBS, for 2 decades or however, maybe longer than that, they had this, that every week it was the biggest game and the biggest conference. The primetime spot for the best conference in America, SEC on CBS at 3:30 Eastern time. And then you're going to go to the biggest game come on. At least change up the wording of what you're doing with the Big Ten. Don't just overnight, now we have the Big Ten, so now they're the best conference because we have them. Again, I understand how financial relationships work. I know that they've got to promote the Big Ten as a huge deal. But don't start trying to sell me that it's the best or the biggest. When just this year, by the way, the CBS will still carry SEC games.
Yes.
Also. And guess what they're going to be telling us? They probably slow down on it now that the contract's about to run out. But what are we going to see during 60 Minutes? The biggest game on the best conference right here on CBS.
Hey, what do you want them to do? They got to promote their product, and they've switched streams.
The Big Ten gets it. Here's a marketing campaign. The Big Ten gets even bigger with this music behind it. Boom! I just created your marketing slogan. Don't tell me it's the best when you've been telling me for years the SEC is the best. And plus, we all know the SEC is the best.
Well, yeah.
There's no arguing it. Look at the college football playoff every year. Look at national championships. The Big Ten's got some catching up to do when it comes to all that. Now, the SEC's got some catching up to do with the TV contract. Also, if you want to hype something, they've got about $300 million they're behind annually right now with the new Big Ten deal, which I believe will change the moment Texas and Oklahoma join the conference. There's going to be a new announcement about a renegotiated price from ESPN Disney, would be my guess.
So, I'm glad that, the NBA on NBC theme, right? We never hear that anymore.
Oh, no, we hear it.
What's it on?
What?
It's
Olympics?
No. It's on FS1. They bought the rights to it.
Oh, do they?
Big East basketball plays the NBA.
Well, that's different.
The NBA on NBC theme.
It's like hearing Monday Night Football on USFL. It doesn't. That doesn't translate.
It's very weird. I'll be watching. I'll watch Seton Hall and Providence on FS1 on a Saturday, and they go to break with the dun 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 dun.
Well,
it's crazy.
Didn't John Tesh write that?
He did.
Yeah. And
many talents.
when I hear that, I still think of Jordan in his sweats warming up prior to the game against Penny Hardaway and Shaq with the Orlando Magic.
Weird to think of them on NBC.
There's a great, I think it's NBA
with Bob,
in the 90s.
Bob Costas.
Oh, yeah. There's Steve Snapper Jones was a color commentator on those games. The NBA in the 90s, I think, is the Twitter account, but you can follow and see old promos of this Sunday's doubleheader, and it's like Sonics versus Nuggets in the old uniforms, and it's great with the voice and the music behind it, and it's always got the promos for each doubleheader on Sunday for the NBA. It's really good.
So what's going on in Nebraska with Scott Frost and the offensive line, where he claimed, he's he says that he's serious with this. He says linemen are throwing up 15 to 20 times per practice. And the quote that he was saying on the show there was, I think they love it.
He said it was not fitness also.
Yeah, I mean.
So
do we want this?
This
Are we
sounds
proud
like
of this?
Stink, Mark Schlereth, who would openly admit
himself.
of what he would do on the field in order to gain some type of advantage. Like he was into whatever it took to play through, right? This is so are we going to see them in Ireland, like throw up on the field constantly?
I mean, I think what he's trying to convey, Hutton, is that they're working so hard in practice that they're never going to have to puke again or even think about it during a game because they've already worked so hard in practice.
Okay.
It's a very old school thing to joke about, like, hey, man, we're working them boys so hard, I want to see your guts on the field, literally. You guys, I want to see you get down in the mud, and I want to see guts expelled from your mouth on the field. That's basically what Scott Frost is saying. Dominic Raiola was a great offensive lineman at Nebraska. So much like Scott Frost, he's another former great Cornhusker player. I read this to my wife today, who's a big Nebraska fan, and she's like, "Oh, this is awesome. I love hearing that." I'm thinking, Nebraska fans are going to think that. First off, I want to know if he's being truthful here completely or if he's exaggerating.
Well, no
15 to 20 is exaggeration.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
But even if it's a thing, it's weird.
Well, 15 to 20 would
Agree.
say, like Bobby Carpenter said, it's basically every offensive lineman scholarship and walk-on you have puking once a practice. You're going to get everyone to puke.
It's the requirement.
Doing the drills, and then
It's like you have a puke period.
It's possible. Mathematically, you could force everyone to puke once every practice, and it could be an every practice thing.
To what end?
But like Bobby said, I just don't know how that's making you a better offensive lineman if it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're pushing them to the brink every now and again and someone gets so worked up or out of breath they throw up a little bit, that's going to happen in athletic, when you're working yourself that hard. Every single day seems awfully excessive if that's the case.
Yeah, I wouldn't be pushing this as like selling the team or marketing myself around this as it being a big success story. Though the fan base, it's probably red meat, which they could then throw up.
I'd say the vast majority of NFL college fan bases love hard work and hard work stories like this.
Yeah, sure. Hard work.
But, I mean, this is a translation of that. At least that's what he's saying. But it's unrealistic to expect those numbers. I'm saying, like, if it's a thing, like once a practice, this is from different players, it's still odd.
Yeah.
And I expect to see it in the game.
And maybe I'm
or your team's not working hard enough.
Right. Maybe I'm taking it a little too far also, but we've entered the age of, you walk off the field and within a half an hour, a lot of these programs have you drinking a precise protein shake that has your name on it and everything. Nutrition is very important. So they're throwing that out the window. I don't care. It doesn't matter what you're eating before practice because I expect to see it on the sideline.
Yeah.
I found this just hilarious. Yesterday I checked the line for Nebraska Northwestern. I read this story and went back and checked the line. And Nebraska's favored by another half point. Again, could be totally just bets coming in no matter what.
No,
but I saw that, I'm like, I wonder how Nebraska's offensive lineman puking 15 to 20 times a practice affects the betting line for that game. And it went up a half a point from 12.5 to 13 for Nebraska.
That mattress guy in Houston went crazy when he heard this.
Boys, I can't think of more pressure on a coach in game number one than on Scott Frost in Ireland. If they lose as a 2-touchdown favorite to Northwestern in game one, his job, you're on the lookout every week. I truly believe that. If they start out 1-3, he's fired early in the season.
Who's his replacement?
And it starts this week. There is a ton of pressure on Scott Frost.
Well, I mean, he was forced to fire his staff and hire certain people that they wanted. He took the mandate.
Which very few guys
but
with name recognition do.
But he took the mandate, and I think what Chad's saying is they've got someone in line
Is Mark
to
Whipple?
take over. in that position,
I don't know.
right?
It's probably Dominic Raiola, so the whole team can puke 50 to 20 times a practice. I mean, he's probably going to give it. It's going to be some. I don't think Mark Whipple, who got there this past offseason as offensive coordinator for the first time, would be the guy. It's going to be another one of the former Husker players that's a position coach that could just fill in as interim head coach, knowing they're not going to be there more than likely.
Brian Applewhite?
I don't know. I mean, look, again,
it's not. Throwing them at you.
It's
it
not
may not
about,
matter at that point.
My point is the writing could be on the wall very quickly if they lose. I don't think they're going to lose this game. I think Nebraska with Casey Thompson at quarterback is a sleeper in the Big Ten West. I know we had David Hookstead on, who just does not believe in them at all. I look at their schedule and I think this could be a 9-3 type turnaround team.
They just need average play at quarterback. Average play.
They lost so many close games a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the record was, I think it was, were they 3-9? 3-9 or 4-8?
Yeah.
One of the two. But they were 3-9, but lost a ton of really close games simply because, not simply because, but in large part because Adrian Martinez could not make winning plays.
Right.
When the game was on the line, he would throw an interception. He would overthrow a guy. He could not win a game that was close late. He's gone. I think Nebraska is going to be sneaky good this year. I think it starts with that game against Northwestern. All I'm saying is that is a hot seat if they lose that game. A hot seat gets a lot hotter.
Let me offer one point of clarification here because it's news to me. Donovan Raiola played one game in the NFL. That's who is doing the talking here, not Dominic Raiola, who played 219 games in the NFL and was a very good offensive lineman. That's not on you. I didn't know there were two of them. So, and I think a lot of people out there probably didn't know about Donovan because his NFL career was one game.
I'll be honest, I didn't know either. I didn't know there was two Raiolas.
So this guy does not have, hearing it from Dominic Raiola had a certain level of meaning to me because I knew he played in the NFL for a long time and was a hell of an offensive lineman. Hearing it from Donovan Raiola means substantially.
Did he play for the Lions?
I will say at least Donovan in college started 39 games and was honorable mention all Big Ten Conference 3 separate times. So he was a good player at Nebraska. Yeah, but did not make it.
He played one game for Tampa in 2010.
The Panther, go ahead.
He played. I'm looking at his. This is what bothers me about preseason stuff too, is that you could put so many teams down on a resume, even if you were there for 8 days in camp. Donovan Raiola played for the Rams, the Steelers, the Rams again, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Bears, the Buccaneers, the Omaha Nighthawks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, back to the Omaha Nighthawks, and then with Washington.
But in the NFL, he really played for Tampa.
That was from 2006 to 2011. I just read off
hotels.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stops in 5 years as a professional football player.
That's a tough way to live.
The Panthers announced that tonight in their preseason game against the Patriots, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are not playing. Instead, it's going to be P.J. Walker starting. It's going to be P.J. Walker getting the first and third quarters. Matt Corral will play the second and fourth quarters tonight. So this is...
I hate that.
Well, yeah, I mean...
As opposed to 2 consecutive quarters. You said second and fourth, right? That on and off. Like, then the guy's got to loosen up again. It's just a weird thing to me. It's unnatural.
Are they going to be able to trade Darnold the same way that they acquired Mayfield?
Not with 19 guaranteed. They could trade Darnold the way Cleveland traded Baker and eat a lot of his money and get Darnold to take less money. But is Darnold going to find a better situation than backing up Baker Mayfield?
I think he's going to be the backup to Mayfield.
I mean,
P.J. Walker wasn't very good last year.
Let me ask you guys this just hypothetical.
It depends on Corral.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this hypothetical, because we discussed this a lot yesterday. If the Browns somehow made a move for Jimmy Garoppolo, how much does that improve their fortunes in those 11 games without Deshaun Watson?
I mean,
is it a game? Is it a game or two swing?
In 11 games, I'd say it's 3.
No. Not you're
not
trading.
This late in
you're
the game.
Trading for a guy who already is missing 50% of his starts,
if
and he hasn't
even
practiced within the offense.
Yeah.
So no.
Yeah. No, it's late.
I would rather have Brissett, who's been there all offseason, who they acquired right out of the chute this offseason, than I would Garoppolo at this point. And by the time Garoppolo gets up to speed, he either suffers an injury or it's time for Watson to come back.
We also can't take on the $25 million, right? There have to be a salary reduction.
Yeah,
as a part
but
of this
that's
whole
not. It's not fully guaranteed, right?
It's not guaranteed. So I mean, they're going to have to cut him. You play the waiting game, or you say, "Hey, we'll give you a sixth. Let us negotiate with him." I don't know. And how much has he come down? He's not coming that far down.
Yes. So we'll get to see that. Plus, there's further evaluation of the Patriots' offense tonight. I haven't seen anything on Mac Jones.
After 2 days of very combative.
My guess is Mac
practice.
Jones isn't playing. The Panthers are treating this like backups versus backups.
The most
right?
news around Mac Jones this preseason was the fake account talking about how he started the brawl in the joint practice. That's been his name.
Burns.
His name got more run from that than anything else.
He apparently practiced well against them. And
Let's get this thing started. I can't believe how far off it still is. The 19th to the 11th is opening Sunday. I know we get the Thursday night game before that. This is my most impatient, and particularly after now with a full week off, 2 weeks before the final preseason game, and with 10 days to the Thursday game, but 2 weeks for most teams to wait for that Sunday. That is a painful 2 weeks of waiting with no real storylines developing unless your team happens to do something interesting with cuts. And not with cuts as much as with additions, which never live up to billing for most teams. You say, they're going to pick up a bunch of guys on waivers, and then they pick up,
they pick up
a backup
depth or
guard.
special teams guys that add depth at their third or fourth linebacker.
Right.
Hit us up on Twitter with your thoughts at OutKick360. Coming up, speaking of depth, we discuss backup quarterbacks across the NFL. Pair it with a column that Withrow had at OutKick.com. The NFL's best and worst backup quarterback situations. We discuss it next on OutKick 360. Coming up, theory on Reddit of where Tom Brady is.
It's so good.
OutKick
It's so
360
good,
continues. Also good is Chad's column at OutKick.com
Well,
on
thank you.
backup quarterbacks, the top 5 best and worst. What led you down this path, Chad?
So
Dare I ask?
Yeah.
it's a fun thing. Like I read you write something and you're in a certain state of mind when you write it. And my state of mind was pissed off for greatness when I wrote this.
Yes.
And then I go back and I look at my last work for OutKick, and it was this like gushy, feel good, watch Little League baseball, and reconnect yourself to something better than you in the sport, and how great it was that the kid consoled the pitcher that hit him and all of that. And then I go to just a complete scorched earth takedown of Titans backup quarterback Logan Woodside very next week.
I sent Chad a picture earlier, Hutton. Our columns are side by side at the OutKick site, and I sent him. I said, "This is like Super Bowls back at our old job. You and I side by side, like in a little hotel room.
Right.
In, Super Bowl City.
Only 3 feet of space between our double beds in a hotel room.
These are even closer.
when we had to share rooms.
These
back in the
columns,
day.
I dare say, are touching.
They're right there next to each other in
They're
the queue. They're right. They're adjoining in the queue right now. So here was my motivation for this column, and I've long thought about this, but it really hit home when I watched Logan Woodside just flail around the football field in preseason game number 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. Logan Woodside.
It was very poor timing by him because this was by far his worst preseason performance.
He's actually
ever.
done reasonably well in the preseason.
But again, like
the man
it's
is
fair.
the man is 1 for 3 for 7 yards in his NFL career, and I wrote that the most surprising thing about that stat line is the 1 completion that he had. I also went on to say that
probably to Nichols.
And look, tell me if you disagree with any of this. I said he has kept his job up until now on the backs of a strong understanding of the offense and his work ethic. These are all great traits. ... for an offensive analyst. Hopefully the Titans hire him on staff when Malik Willis wins the backup job, which I am praying on behalf of the Titans that happens, that Malik Willis is the backup quarterback. But Logan Woodside, look, this is not Logan Woodside's fault, right? This is nothing this is not personal about Logan Woodside. It's more a statement of the state of backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Logan Woodside, I could name him with any number of guys that played at a non-traditional football school that's real heady and a good locker room dude that can throw a 7-yard out, and that's about it. And that probably, you hope, won't turn the ball over when they get in the game. I think there's some pretty closed-off thinking about the backup quarterback position across the NFL with a number of teams. Titans, first and foremost, because as I rank them, they have the worst backup quarterback in the NFL. So I went through and I ranked the best and the worst across the league. And if you guys, please respond as I start to go through these and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think you're wrong at number 1.
Best NFL backup quarterback, number 1, Nick Foles, Colts. Why am I wrong,
He hasn't
Paul?
played good football in a very long time. And I like your number 3 choice a lot better, particularly in the and every time we talk about backup quarterback, I think it's important to kind of differentiate Hut. I think you agree with me here. The guy coming off the bench in relief is a completely different job, really, than the guy who gets a game plan on Tuesday as a substitute and is coming in with something that's crafted for him. Because the guy coming in relief has got minimal snaps during the week, and the game plan is designed for the other guy. So he's coming in, and if he's not a particularly good player, most of them are not, he's got a minimalist approach. He's trying not to turn the ball over and let other things carry the day. Well, in the full week preparation, when a defense is coming after you, it's a different kind of challenge. Nick Foles, to me, hasn't played good football in a long enough time that I don't want him on the
Paul,
field.
to your point, I really look at them in like 3 different silos of backup quarterbacks. Nick Foles is in one of them. Older guy, vet, been around the league, been a starter, had some success, is now, to me, clearly a backup. Nick Foles is not in a place to compete for a starting job anywhere in the league, given his recent play. But I also look at Nick Foles and I think that is the perfect backup in Indianapolis for a 37-year-old Matt Ryan that could plug and play. My definition of a good backup quarterback is if you lose your starter for a month, can this guy split 4 games? Can they get to 2-2?
The thing to me about Foles,
I think that Foles could.
He's not. I don't have confidence in him staying healthy for 4 games.
Well, yeah, but in this case, you want the best case scenario to, in his scenario, just keep your head above water.
Right. Well, here's what I'll say about that silo, and I like what you're doing with the silos. We're on the same page there.
There's 2 other ones I
All
want
right,
to get
to. Let me cover this silo. I hate this silo because this silo is mostly washed up guys. And I know the ceiling of what I'm going to get over a washed up guy. And so I made this transition a few years ago, actually in defense of Logan Woodside before we knew his limitations, is give me a guy in that spot who might have a ceiling we haven't seen instead of a guy who I know exactly what he can't do.
Is Teddy Bridgewater washed up to you?
No.
I got Teddy Bridgewater
I like
number
Teddy
2.
Bridgewater as a backup.
Had
He's
some
in
success.
a great spot right now.
Yeah, he was not very good a year ago, but he still had 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions in Denver. He was, I would describe as serviceable as a starter in Denver, but nothing better than that.
Yeah,
He's no starter.
No.
But he kept the game in reach, unlike Drew Lock. Anytime Drew Lock came in for Teddy Bridgewater, he threw a pick.
Yep.
Bridgewater at least allowed them to play to their strengths.
But Bridgewater, to me, is a slightly younger version with similar success to a Nick Foles at time in his career. But that fits that number one
Maybe
silo.
earlier acceptance of I'm a career
Right.
backup.
But he still falls into the same silo as Nick Foles of veteran guy, has been a starter, has had some success, is no longer a starter, but a really good backup option. Kenny Pickett is silo number 2 to me. He's 3rd on my list of best backups. He is a rookie that you believe his ceiling is top-level NFL starter. And that is the backup I'd want to have if I had to pick, right?
See,
if you had the ability to have a pretty good quarterback in front of them and bring someone in like this, Desmond Ridder would be another example. He's not on my list, but he'd be another example of that. He's not as high of a pick as Kenny Pickett, but he's a young guy that you've got some faith in that maybe he can become something.
Well, I like the ceiling opportunity here, but I think Ritter's more that category than Pickett because I think Pickett could start opening day. And also in this silo, Chad, you have to have a subset of guys who are there to ultimately be the starter. Kenny Pickett's not there to be the backup. Kenny Pickett's there to start.
Well,
it's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I couldn't differentiate. Look, here's what I went by. I went by the team's current depth chart and who's the backup.
Understand.
I don't think that Logan Woodside's the backup quarterback. They drafted Malik Willis to be the backup and maybe eventually the starter. That's going to happen sooner rather than later, even if it's not week 1. My point here is I can only go by what the depth chart says right now.
Sure.
And also, people were asking me online when I posted this, why is Jimmy Garoppolo not number 1? Jimmy Garoppolo's not practicing with the team. So he is technically listed as the number 2 quarterback. I'm not including him. Nate Sudfeld is the backup in San Francisco because Jimmy Garoppolo they've stated, has no chance of playing for the 49ers. So
he's more or less a free agent right now, but under contract, sitting in limbo waiting to be traded.
So number 4, I've got Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley, I think this kind of is the 3rd silo. Younger guy to mid-level in years that I don't think is ever going to be a starter. He is a career backup quarterback, but I think he's the perfect backup quarterback in Baltimore for what they're doing with their offense.
For this discussion, I jotted him down as number 1 on my list because he can come in and give you the same look. You can run the same style that your entire team really is built around in Lamar Jackson. Now, whenever he came in last year and they went on that 6-game losing streak whenever Lamar was out, I mean, there is a definite drop in overall production and skill level. But he allows you to block the same, run the same. And by the way, the Ravens also had significant injury at running back whenever Huntley came in.
They were a mess, but he failed the 2-2 test. They went 1-3 with him at quarterback. But I agree. That's a good backup for that team.
He also had one just enormous game with 4 touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing. And I think that was in Green Bay, but it was a 31-30 loss in that game. But he was great.
I think his
passing
team
stats
specific
weren't that good in the other 3 games.
But it's a great.
But he still can run.
Team specific, though. If you said, give me a backup quarterback for my team, he's not the answer for everybody.
Right. And I made that point. I don't know that he's on this list with a number of other teams, but he's, as Hutton said, maybe number 1 on his list. certainly I've got him at number 4, top 5 because of Baltimore's situation. Number 5, this is a guy, I don't even know that there's a silo for him, honestly, given his shaky, at times great, at times awful performance when he was a starting quarterback. But I think the ultimate wild card as a backup is Gardner Minshew in Philly, and for this reason. He's difficult to prepare for because I don't know that Gardner Minshew at times knows what he's going to do out on the football field. Very unpredictable.
He's my number 1.
He's a
I
spark
love
plug.
him. I think he's a career backup. I think he's a guy that Jacksonville obviously was in desperate times and their thing didn't work out and they put him in there. But take away him starting there and just give him a career from the beginning as a guy who can come in and give you. Hutton, you and I have talked about this a lot. He I think would be number 1 on the juice list of a guy that's going to come in. No, there's no backup quarterback in the league with more swagger than Gardner Minshew. And I think when your huddle of the other 10 offensive players is looking to the quarterback who's coming in off the bench at a time where everybody's shoulders slump because your guy just got hurt, this guy has a capacity to give you confidence that nobody else on this list has.
He's really one of the few guys on this list, maybe the only guy in the top 5 that I would consider, even because of poor performance, if your quarterback's having an off game, you put him in as a spark to your offense. The other guys, they're only coming in because of injury. Yeah. You let your starter play through it, even if he's having a bad game. I look at Minshew in Philly and think if Hurts is just off one day, midway through the third quarter, you could conceivably put Gardner Minshew and he could come back and win you a game with a spark he could provide.
I like him a lot.
I want to give 2 honorable mentions on mine. Actually 3.
I'm curious to see if they were on my list of names I considered.
So if I were making a top 5, guys I would be considering, Tyrod Taylor is on my list.
He was right there for me. Strong consideration.
Taylor Heineke, who is around the same energy level as Minshew. He's not the top, but he believes that he's coming out there and he's going to win.
And he's tainted in the public image from having started more than he should have started, like Minshew.
And C.J. Beathard. C.J. Beathard has started several games in San Francisco. He's now the backup to Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. And he's not horrible. I mean, in terms of if we're doing a top 5 or a bottom 5, he is closer to the top 5 than he is any consideration of being on the bottom 5 list for me. And I'm not saying I would necessarily put him in my top 5 either, but he's top 10 because I've seen him play in San Francisco and finish seasons whenever Garoppolo was out or whatever else was going on there. So there's some unknowns with him, but I think he allows you to go through the process of not practicing, but yet give you a chance to play. The one thing that strikes me in this exercise, Chad, is the amount of teams who have a backup that is nothing like their starter.
Yeah,
that makes no sense to me.
Well, I'll defend this. I'm not saying it's what you want. I'm saying you have so little to choose from. You got to take what you can get. But it's hard to go find somebody that's like But here's
what I would say about that.
It's not about that. It's not about that. It's the Chicago Bears have Trevor Siemian backing up Justin Fields. That is the virtual opposite ends of what you're trying to do offensively.
Right, and I agree. And I think Chicago's a mismanaged team, so that may not be the best example. But I'll go with it. They just may not have had the opportunity to get a mobile backup, depending on how the contracts were and who was available and what the movement
again,
is.
If PJ
because it's such a limited market.
If PJ Walker,
if he comes free, they should go get him.
If PJ Walker's playing in a minor league before he gets picked up to be a third stringer in Carolina, PJ Walker should be Justin Fields' backup.
Oh, I agree. And if he comes free, they should go sign him.
If you watch college football,
if he's not free,
there are 15 PJ Walkers playing every Saturday. They are out there. You just have to get out of your set ways of having to have a guy who's great in study hall.
Here's where I think you're not giving it enough credit for how damn hard it is to be ready to do stuff without practicing.
Yeah, like Simeon, who's bounced around, is known for being able to retain a playbook fast. Instead of he can get a limited amount of reps when he signs, and he's able to learn a portion of the playbook and run it and actually call the play.
Trevor Siemian was not under consideration for my best or my worst.
Right.
He's in the middle.
Right.
So he's kind of out of the conversation because I'm not looking at him and thinking, man, this is a terrible backup quarterback. Let me give you one that was under consideration for top 5 and tell me what you think. And I was mentally tainted by poor performance a year ago when he got his chance in Chicago as the starter. Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton's
in
a
New
good
Orleans.
Backup for that situation.
I really wanted to put him in the top 5, but when I looked at the other, I was down to Andy Dalton, Tyrod Taylor, and
Minshew was
number
your
5 on my list was Minshew. I was really down to those 3 guys for 4 and 5.
Where do you have Blaine Gabbert?
I don't have Blaine Gabbert best or worst.
Okay.
He would be middle of the line.
See, I can't stand
Career
Blaine
backup.
Gabbert or Matt Castle. That's why that scenario. That's why when they went with Logan Woodside, initially I was like, well, at least you're going with something that's got to, we don't know anything about him. Maybe he could do something. But you know exactly what you're getting with the Titans when they had Blaine Gabbert and Matt Castle, which was simply not enough.
Can I roll through the worst with you guys? Because
Yeah.
some of these guys, there's honestly just not a lot to say about them. That's how bad it is. And they don't have much of a body of work to discuss. Number 1 is Logan Woodside of the Titans. I can't think of anyone worse in the league. Paul?
I think you get to a certain point, and
look,
you
could argue,
but he's in that bag.
Here's how I judge
nitpick
this.
with other guys that are on
there's
this
going to be
list.
others on this list that haven't played. Here's how I judge the bottom 5. If they're cut today, do they clear waivers, and are they practice squad eligible? Logan Woodside may not be practice squad eligible any longer.
Well, the thing is, the new practice squad thing, he can.
But I've even asking around about that. People are wondering whether or not he is. We need to clarify that. But even if he was, I don't think he's claimed. Like, he's not claimed on the roster, and I don't think you're going to have to go into a bidding war to keep him on your practice squad.
Only if Atlanta wanted a 3rd for some reason.
Or a 4th because he's a former Titan. Yeah.
Man, I mean, we're really just dragging the depths when we're talking about, a 4th. Yeah. So, Logan Woodside's number 1.
With Woodside, Chad, you were asking to turn around and hand the football off. The Titans' backup quarterback is Derrick Henry. He's their backup quarterback.
And Hutton, I'm glad you mentioned that because I wrote that. I said, I'm snapping the ball to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and I said that earlier.
He essentially is the quarterback at that point. That's your only chance of winning an NFL game if Ryan Tannehill gets hurt, if Logan Woodside is the only other quarterback on your roster, is that you're up 3 touchdowns or more in the second half, and you can nurse a lead. If it is tied, or you're a score ahead or a score behind, and you're playing anyone that's remotely competent, you're not winning that game with Logan Woodside. Yeah. That's how I define a terrible backup quarterback.
There's 2 others I hate, Kyle Allen and Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, let me get through the 5 here quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had done.
Jordan Love is the second worst. I think he's terrible. He threw 3 straight interceptions in the preseason game the other night.
He was awful last week.
He's had accuracy issues going back to Utah State. He threw 17 picks. He was wildly inaccurate at times. He was drafted on traits. People that liked him, obviously the Packers did. They traded up and I think made one of the worst first-round picks of all time.
LaFleur,
given what it did to Aaron Rodgers.
Watching a bit of that game, LaFleur was making excuses for him, saying 2 of the 3 picks were not on him. And he was saying that immediately after the game when he's being peppered about his performance.
Number 3 on my list is Sean Mannion with the Vikings. He was a 3rd-round pick. I didn't realize he was in the league this long. 2015. Sean Mannion was drafted out of Oregon State. His career stat line, 67 for 110, for 573, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. 30-year-old backup battling Kellen Mond for the number 2 gig in Minnesota. Just a lot of nothing with Sean Mannion.
No nothing.
Another guy, honestly, John Wolford of the Rams, I joked. I heard that name and I thought of about 38 different people that he could have been in college. He played quarterback at Wake Forest and was a 4-year starter. Great. He falls right in line with a cliche right now in the NFL of a backup quarterback of limited physical capabilities. That's a great locker room guy. I'm sure incredibly smart, good with his teammates, great with the playbook, and he played at a non-traditional football school.
Yeah,
so
he's a nobody to me. One more thing about your number 32, who, I think you can make quite a case for, Logan Woodside.
Yep.
If and when that becomes Malik Willis, he didn't rank very high either,
he's 32.
based on where he is right now.
Yeah. But the difference is
he's got some upside.
The skill set has the chance to be, electric. He has the chance to use his athleticism to be dynamic. I don't see that ceiling for Logan Woodside.
Look, the 7-yard touchdown run is all I need to say about Malik Willis and why he's a better option than Logan Woodside. Logan Woodside's never pulling that off.
Right.
Malik Willis has a ton of warts in his game. He is not comfortable at all in the pocket right now. He's got a lot of development to do, and he's not been good. But I watched that one run, and I think, well, if this guy had to be thrown into a game, maybe something crazy happens when things break down, and he could make somebody miss in the open field and come up with a big play. You're not going to get that from Logan Woodside. Number 5 on my list, and probably the most controversial of them, Joe Flacco. I'm not sure Joe Flacco is that interested in being in the NFL right now and being a backup.
He, right now he's
because some would
interested.
probably argue he's the best.
No, right now,
given his resume.
Right now
he's
interested.
That knee injury.
Yeah, he may start week 1. Probably will start
against
week
Baltimore.
1. Yeah,
I don't. That's a good situation for the Jets. Simply, you've got Flacco's attention, and you have players on the roster that say he's throwing a better football than Zach Wilson. So it's not the worst case scenario for the Jets to have to go one game with Flacco.
That's some bad Zach Wilson.
you better
moves.
give him some great protection.
Where's
to
Chase
deliver that
Daniel on
football
your
better
list?
than Zach Wilson?
Chase Daniel, who's made $40 million over his career to be a career backup, is now the backup in Los Angeles for the Chargers behind Herbert. Chase Daniel, when he's been in the game for Mahomes or played a ton in the preseason, he normally puts on a show and does enough to stick around and wear the headset on game day. So
Chase Daniel's another guy I did not consider for either the top or the bottom.
He would be among my top 5.
Yeah, I didn't even consider him for the top.
And what about who's the guy in Detroit?
Blau.
Tim Boyle.
Boyle,
Yep.
Blau also has a Thanksgiving Day start. Tim Boyle.
Blau, watching Hard Knocks, lost the game for Detroit because he fumbled a snap, and it was a really hard thing to watch.
They're both there?
They did
That's
a
pretty
profile.
impressive.
They did a profile of his wife, who is a hurdler for Columbia.
Okay.
And they met at Purdue, and it showed the whole team a year before rooting her on in the Olympics in the team room on the big screen when she had her race.
The nation of Columbia, not the school.
Not the school, yes. Columbia.
Columbia.
Let me get the right pronunciation. Columbia. But so Blau just dropped a shotgun snap when they had the ball. When they had the lead, and they turned it over, and then that's when Atlanta went down. We heard the crowd noise on that 4th down, but they got the ball back because of that. And Blau's just on the sideline the whole time, head in hands, and everybody's trying to encourage him. He's like, I couldn't catch a snap. We lost the game because I dropped a snap. Is all he kept repeating over and over.
We continue the discussion coming up. This puts into perspective, for all of this discussion about this is such a prove-it year for Baker Mayfield. It is if he wants the next 4 or 5 year deal somewhere or in Carolina a year from now. Or why did Arizona pay Kyler Murray? Look at the other options around the league. Those 2 guys are starting next year somewhere. Guaranteed.
This is why you're desperate.
Guaranteed, because it's tough to find 32 good starting quarterbacks in the league. Look at what Seattle's doing right now with their quarterback battle that's ongoing, or the jury being out in Chicago, not necessarily because Justin Fields is awful, but because the players around him, who knows what he's able to do and elevate players around him as far as the athleticism at some skilled positions he's going to be playing with.
Yeah, neither one of those guys in Seattle are qualified to me to be a good backup on their own.
Right.
So that is
It's
big
not a good
there.
spot.
And
Nope.
the other thing is, once things flip in Pittsburgh, I think they're in pretty good shape with Trubisky as a veteran backup. I would have given him a top 5 candidacy. I think he's a good backup kind of guy.
You
who
just gave
should
me
be that for the rest of his career.
Just gave me an idea for my next ranking. Starting quarterbacks in the league that I don't believe would be a good backup.
That's a good call.
If they lost their job, they wouldn't even be a good backup option.
Chad Withrow,
It's a small
OutKick.com backup quarterback columnist.
I should go with just backup rankings. Backup centers in the
Goalies.
NBA will be next.
This would be more read
Backup
than the
goalies.
minor league baseball reports,
Yes.
that
Which-
have multiple riders.
So many inches.
Stay tuned. This is OutKick 360.
That's for
All right, scale of 1 to 10 on believability. Tom Brady is missing time with the Bucs to film The Masked Singer,
0.
which is on Fox.
0. There's no way it would be kept a secret. There's just no way. In Hollywood, at a sound stage with workers. I think there's a studio audience, but even if not, too many people exposed.
Full disclosure, I've never seen the show.
They don't get.
But
They don't leak
isn't
who it
the
is.
whole the whole theme of the show is no one knows who it is?
No one. They go to great lengths to hide whoever's doing it. I don't think it's ever been leaked until the reveal happens who it is behind the mask.
Dude, you guys have said that he won't get crushed for anything. If he left training camp to do The Masked Singer, he would get destroyed, and he should get destroyed.
He'd be crushed.
I think it's preposterous.
Here's where I am.
So he said 0.
I think it's pretty ridiculous, but I mean, I'm not going to completely throw it out. I'm going to say 5%.
Also, does it take 10 days to film?
If
Well,
you keep
I guess
winning,
it's the whole season.
I think if you get
conceivably.
if you keep advancing, you could stay around for a while.
He's got a golden voice.
Guys, we're running up against week
he's
1
good at
here.
everything.
I'm still
filming
around.
it, you would be filming it now to air this fall, and it's multiple weeks, so the reveal wouldn't. And Pat McAfee discussed this briefly. He said, if this is happening, he's wearing a goat. He's in a goat costume,
Yeah,
right? Like
you would think.
it would be pretty obvious if this is filmed and he's going through the season, and you have like a marquee matchup on Fox the same week as Brady being unveiled as the Masked Singer. Like it all ties in with
his deal
I
with
get
Fox.
the nobody knowing thing. He still would be in Los Angeles, coming and going from places, all of that. There's still a lot of opportunity for him
here's
to
what
be
we know,
seen.
Paul.
You could stay hidden.
Here's
if you
what we know,
wanted.
Paul. The man is living and he's somewhere today.
That's-
But no one has a clue where. And that in and of itself is amazing on this day and age.
That's true. Even more amazing if it's in LA.
For sure. OutKick 360 continues on this great Friday. Just like that, the final hour is here. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. All of our great radio partners. 6th and Peabody, our location. Home of the OutKick studios with Hee Haw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Gave a tour of this place today. It never ceases to amaze people. The size and footprint of the property and the fact that everything they sell here, other than the merch that's directly to my right, Paul's right, Chad's right, right behind this wall is made here. Everything but the merch. And when you say, where are you guys located? We're right behind the Music City Center, which sits right behind Bridgestone Arena, downtown Nashville. When you consider that the place is a city block long in a downtown area, it's pretty cool. So next time you're in town, come see us.
Winning property here.
That's right.
For sure. And Friday afternoons might be the best time to be here.
It is a full city block. Talk about how expansive this place is. When you walk around, realize you're walking on a city block. That's the size of this venue.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. Sarkisian has named Ewers the starting quarterback at Texas. That's no surprise, but we'll see that. The Longhorns. UT taking the field there. We will talk Tennessee football later this hour as well. Oh, we're having him now. Okay. Brent Hubbs is about to join us. We'll talk from VolquestCrew, Brent Hubbs, in just a moment. And later we will discuss the Vanderbilt Commodores and the Eagles and Commanders as we continue our NFC East preview. And we will also give some thoughts on another column at OutKick.com from PK. There's been glowing remarks from the quarterback play. Both quarterbacks, Chad, at Tennessee to this point. We're less than 2 weeks away from the regular season. We weren't saying that a year ago. This was around the time that Joe Milton was finally supplanting anything that Hendon Hooker has done. But they definitely have a hierarchy to practice now. I think that has helped practice with the daily regiment, so to speak. And Hooker has looked the part coming off of a phenomenal year where he came off the bench.
You know, Josh Heupel is not much of a pessimistic type of guy. When he meets the media, he's typically talking about the positives with his team. He's not really harping on, doesn't ever seem to be overly moody about anything or angry about the way practice went. Seems to come, at least to the media, with a pretty optimistic point of view on his team. I think offensively, that's where you'd point to the strength of this Tennessee team with what they have coming back. And that has been where Josh Heupel's optimism has been so far during camp.
The Vols are headed into some game week prep coming up, just around the corner from opening the season against Ball State on that Thursday night. We welcome in Brent Hubbs of VolQuest.com. Brent, thank you for the time as always. Hope you're well.
Yeah, doing well. On our way to high school football. We get started here. We're going to try to dodge some storms, and hopefully we get to play a little high school football tonight. But, yeah, we're doing well, and as you mentioned, Tennessee is shifting into a game week mode. They will not spend the next 2 weeks focusing on Ball State, but they will be in a bit of a game week mode here just to try to get everybody acclimated to how game weeks go and what they look like, and particularly for the young players who are going to help this football team. Some of them are going to help this football team this year, some of them early.
Let's talk a bit about the depth, and let's just start with some of the starters. What have you learned over the last week or so about left tackle? And more importantly, are they going to make sure that they're solid on that spot as Pittsburgh rolls around? I'm kind of looking ahead here, but we're close to the Pittsburgh game where the season can turn based on that win or loss.
Well, I mean, I think what they're going to do with that thing is they're going to play by committee. They're going to play both of them in the opener and see what happens. And then as somebody emerges, then they'll play a guy more than they will the other. And I think that's kind of been the plan all along, to be honest with you guys. I don't think that they have been in a situation where they felt like someone was just going to run away with this job. And that's certainly been the case this fall camp. They'll play both of them, and they'll kind of sort itself out, hopefully after the Ball State game, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't play both of them in the Pitt game. Remember this about Josh Heupel and Glenn Ellerby, the offensive line coach. When they were at Central Florida, because of the fast-paced offense, they were very comfortable playing 6 or 7 offensive linemen a game. It does not bother them to rotate guys in the first half because they think it helps them stay fresh. So rotating those guys doesn't necessarily mean they're bad at that position. It just means they may feel comfortable enough with either one of them that they can play them both some and try to spell them a little bit so that they stay fresh in the fast-paced offense.
So, Brent, there seemed to be a lot of optimism around Brew McCoy's getting eligible for this season. Certainly, he's been turning some heads at practice so far in his work with Tennessee. Has that optimism started to wane now that Tennessee has officially appealed with the NCAA?
Well, Austin stole my line today in the 2-minute drill. It's my line. I'm taking full credit for it. I stole it from Tom Hanks. The earth is getting bigger in the window, and time is running out here for Brew McCoy to be able to be a part of the game plan to get ready for Ball State. I'm not saying they won't have him, but Josh Heupel said today he would like to have 5 or 6 days knowing that Brew McCoy is available to play to get him ready. If you don't know that, then they're going to shift some reps and get Walker Merrill more reps and get him ready, get a Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, get those young guys more reps to get them ready. And McCoy would take less reps until he is eligible, until he's ruled eligible. Here's what I know in terms of the optimism thing. Tennessee was plenty optimistic all summer because it really just requires USC kind of signing off and approving it, basically. USC is not doing that. They've not made it the easiest. I don't think it has anything to do with Lincoln Riley. So nobody needs to go tweet at Lincoln Riley. I think this is a compliant general counsel deal at Southern Cal. And I think if they're not going to sign off on it, then Tennessee is moving forward with an appeal to the NCAA and waiting on an NCAA ruling. The question is, how quick will the NCAA rule? Is this one of these committees that meets the second Tuesday of every odd month that ends with
Brent Hubb's with us. He's driving, I believe, to maybe a high school game. And we will pot him down and reconnect with him momentarily. So USC, who has their own transfer issues from Pitt's none too happy about
Jordan Addison.
Thank you. They're fine playing that ball game, but they're blocking Brew McCoy.
Well, here's the problem I have. Tennessee needs to start to shame USC in this. That teams do not often use the media to their advantage the way they should, because this looks awful for. It may not be a Lincoln Riley issue, but it can become a Lincoln Riley issue if your school is holding up some guy who wants to go play somewhere else. And then my point is, USC took this many transfers.
Right.
Their schools didn't hold them up. We got one transfer from USC this year, and their university is holding this kid's right to play up. That's a problem I'd have if I'm Tennessee, and I'd be pretty fired up about it. I'm curious if we get Brent back on the line. I'll ask him about this. Tennessee got Velus Jones from USC also. I wonder if there's some lingering bad feelings about that. Velus Jones went to Tennessee and balled out. He was really good, and he made a big punt return last night for the Bears also in the preseason game. So I wonder if something's going on with that history.
The way Brent
between
answered
the two
that,
schools.
though, made it sound like no one needs to go tweeting at Lincoln Riley, almost like this is some, to your point, some seeded background thing from a previous year.
Here's my thing. Even if Lincoln Riley doesn't have much or anything to do with this, it's his school that's blocking it. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm saying
Hubbs is back with us.
Don't go there and think you have a chance to go where you want to, even if it's out of conference, because their school holds people up.
Brent, we picked up on your point there before you lost connection going to the high school football game of Brew McCoy and your emphasis on not blaming Lincoln Riley. And I picked up by saying this is a school that is nationally regarded all of a sudden after winning 4 games because they took a ton of transfers and brought them with Lincoln Riley. So why wouldn't they play ball here with Tennessee and let a player go?
Again, I think this is on the university side because remember, unlike, and I heard you guys talking about Velus Jones, of course, Tennessee also got Malik Jackson years ago.
Right,
they got Caleb Tremblay. They got Chase McGrath. I mean, they've had no issue there. Remember, Brew McCoy had a on-campus issue with their legal counsel on campus. Now, there was never a charge filed against them in any way, shape, or form. In fact, the authorities, the police officers in L.A. looked at that case and went, no, there's nothing here, and never even really pursued it at all. But I don't know where that stands with legal counsel at Southern Cal. That's why I say it's not a Lincoln Riley issue, because I don't think Lincoln Riley is standing on a table and saying, we're going to block this to where he's not going to play. I mean, Lincoln Riley doesn't know who Brew McCoy is. I guess he knew him in recruiting, but I mean, he's never coached him, never been a part, never been around him or anything like that. I'm not sure legal counsel would have let Brew McCoy play at USC this fall if he stayed at USC. So that's why I say it's not a Lincoln Riley thing. Tennessee's administration, starting with Danny White all the way through, has been working and trying to work with USC on this and continue to have dialogue, or try to have dialogue with them to get a resolution there. If there's not a resolution, then it's going to go to the NCAA, and we'll see what the NCAA rules on. It's hard to believe in the world of the one-time transfer somebody's really going to try to block somebody from playing somewhere, but it's college football, and you never know. I mean, you know, what you think is going to be an automatic oftentimes is far from it.
Brent, put in perspective for those who are not familiar with him, what he would mean to this offense if he's eligible to play.
He's the starting wide receiver opposite Cedric Tillman, in my opinion. I think he is a talented guy who's got a big frame, who has had a really nice freshman year at SC, got off track after that with some personal things that he was dealing with. But he is a high school 5-star talent. Tennessee's unproven on that other side. I think Walker Merrill has had a really nice camp. I think he's proven he can help this team. None of us saw Walker Merrill as an outside guy. We all thought he would be an inside slot guy, but he's done a good job on the outside. Ramel Keaton is not a consistent enough performer for me to be that outside guy right now, although he will play. I think McCoy is a guy who's made plays in scrimmages and the second scrimmage. He didn't scrimmage in the first one because of a nagging injury, but he made plays in the second scrimmage. And as camp has gone on, he's gotten better and better with Hendon Hooker, and he's gotten better in understanding this offense. So I think he would have a real impact on this offense from the moment he's cleared to play.
Depth was an issue for the first version of Josh Heupel's team. He talked today about that being less of a factor, it seemed like. How much better do you foresee the depth of this team being than last year?
Well, I mean, I think depth's what you make it a little bit too, Paul. I mean, are you going to play those guys? They act like they're going to. They say they're going to. You know, they had more than 3 receivers on the team last year. It's just after the Florida game, they only trusted 3 receivers, and that's why they basically played only 3. Willie Martinez had more defensive backs than the 5 that played 850-plus snaps last year. He just didn't trust playing any of those other guys. So the question is, how many do they trust to play? And I think that they feel better and they trust these guys more than they did a year ago. At the same time, too, they probably want to see those guys react under the lights. I think that's why you'll see Tennessee play a lot of bodies, Paul, the first game of the season against Ball State, and then they'll make some judgments after that as to how many they feel are above that line, if you will, being able to really contribute and who they think is maybe not ready for, you know, prime time under the lights action when they head to Pittsburgh.
Brent Hubb's with us. Brent, how much of a disadvantage is this Vols secondary right now in terms of speed on your average wide receiving core that they're going to face in the SEC?
Oh, I think they're better. I mean, you know, we've got I think Tamarion McDonald playing the star position is probably a better athlete than any of us have given him credit for. When you watch his high school tape, Tamarion was an in-the-box, strong safety playing basically a linebacker position for Whitehaven. But I think he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. I think Kamal Haddon can run on the outside as a defensive back. I think Warren Burrell can run. I think the question with Warren Burrell is, where's his confidence level? He had some moments last year where he was pretty good, and he had some moments where he got picked on quite a bit. But I don't think it's a lack of athletic ability. And I think Christian Charles is a good enough athlete to play out there at the corner spot. Look, is Jalen McCullough suddenly gotten a lot faster? No. So they're probably, he's experienced, he knows what to do, but they could be better or more athletic at safety. Trayvon Flowers is plenty athletic enough. I think he needs to play with a little better football savvy, if you will, or IQ or whatever, and be a better ball hawk guy out there. than what he's been. Remember, Flowers didn't play high school football until his senior year. He was going to go play college baseball and then ended up with some scholarship offers late and decided to come to Tennessee and has played a ton of football. But you can tell that he's been trying to figure it out the last couple of years because he didn't focus on football for 3.5 years of high school, and it shows at times.
So, Brent, speaking of secondary, how big was it for the Vols to land the 2 new commitments in the secondary, especially Jordan Matthews out of Baton Rouge this past week?
Well, I think it's huge because it is an upgrade in athletic ability. It is an upgrade in speed. And it's, it's 2 guys who can play. Ricky Gibson from Trussville, Alabama, and as you mentioned, Jordan Matthews from Baton Rouge. Those are guys, they beat out Georgia, they beat out Texas, Michigan. I mean, they beat out some high-quality schools you're chasing for both of those guys. So I think both those guys can come in and help. I think the good news for Tennessee is, unlike when Alontae Taylor and Bryce Thompson committed to Tennessee, I mean, they got handed the starting job the day they issued pads. That's not going to be the case here because they've developed they've got some depth, they've got some competition back there, which should help both those guys. But I think Jordan Matthews is going to push every returner next year, every returning guy next year for playing time. I think you can see that out of Ricky Gibson as well. I think both those guys are high-quality players.
Brent, your overall analysis of Mike Keith and the lap he made around Nashville with Mario Andretti a couple of weeks ago.
Well, having known Mike and produced Sports Talk with him, I've got to call Mike to find out how much he interviewed Andretti before they ever got in a car.
Yeah.
Because when we were doing Sports Talk in Knoxville, he gave me this list of names weekly that he wanted on the show. And it was like the who's who in sports, right? I mean, it was every big name guy you could ever imagine. We got some of them on. Andretti was long on his list. And so I know he was thrilled to even just get to meet Mario Andretti, much less ride in a car with him. But I thought he handled himself well, maybe a little bit too much cheerleading. The hand pumping kind of makes you wonder how fast the car was going at times, right? I mean, you would think he'd be holding on to something in the car a little more than he did. But I know he had a ball doing it. And what a great event that turned out to be in Nashville with that racing series there through the streets of Music City. And what an unbelievable opportunity for Mike. So I'm sure he enjoyed every second of it.
I sent him a text and said, "You've never looked so cool than when you flip down that visor in slow motion with that helmet that he gave you." I mean, that was well done by the Titans. Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, making a lap around the
here's my question.
track with Andretti.
Here's my question of that. Was that a Top Gun move, or was that the Charlie Sheen Hot Shots move? Which one would that move factor into from a movie standpoint? Does it make the Top Gun reel, or does it go to Hot Shots?
It was more Cole Trickle in Days of Thunder, so a little bit in between both of them.
Okay, I got you.
It was well done, and Brent retweeted it. I saw that, and I sent him a text. I said, "This is the coolest you're ever going to look on camera, Mike. This is unbelievable." Hey, Brent, enjoy high school football, man. It's hard to believe high school kicks off now, and here we go under the lights. And when you join us next Friday, Tennessee will be in game week. Here we go.
Good luck.
Yep, it's time to go. Thanks. I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a great weekend.
You too. There's Brent Hubbs of VolquestCrew.com, who joins us each Friday. He and Austin Price and the entire crew at VolQuest doing a phenomenal job covering Tennessee and where they sit across the SEC. Coming up, our SEC preview continues with the Vanderbilt Commodores. We will also continue our preview of the NFC East as we turn our attention to the Eagles and then the Commanders on OutKick 360. Here's your new Thursday night football theme. If you're listening across our radio partners.
It's about to hit.
On Amazon. And it's not Titans and Jaguars either. It's actually matchups you want to watch, ladies and gentlemen. Not Titans from the Ken Wisenhunt era. This is Mike Vrabel's Titans on Thursday Night Football.
I think it's really
Panthers,
good.
It's very good.
Saints.
Yeah.
Next.
It would have been easy to not do well at this.
It's Chiefs, Chargers. I find it extremely
It's compelling.
in this day and age with the NFL films and their music, it is very difficult for them to not get it right. They're that good.
Is
with
this
these themes.
NFL Films? It has the composer's name.
They have a composer. That is their orchestra. This is no different. That you can tell. This is the same theme as falls on the same lines as Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's the same track, and they put out like Titans Radio would have access to this library. It's amazing how deep the library is of their overall theme. This is very well done.
It's good. When it kind of slowly starts, but then there's a little pause, then it hits. It gets me going.
That leads us into our NFL discussion. We're going to hit Vandy later this hour. Washington, we will preview Washington in a moment, but we start with the Philadelphia Eagles. I am high on the Eagles. I fully admit this. Jalen Hurts, guys, has been set up so well around him now. Sirianni, I heard a lot of respect for him based on his reaction last week in the preseason game on the hit with Jalen Hurts on the sideline. They add A.J. Brown, who by all accounts from the Philadelphia media has been exceptional in practice and in the first preseason game. We all saw that. They add Jordan Davis, who has been phenomenal on the inside. They have Nakobe Dean, who has been a tackling machine and is a steal where they drafted him on day number 2. And in between all that, Hassan Reddick is now rushing the passer. Paul Reddick. Really loves Hassan Reddick. And they don't have many key losses from their roster. They lose guard Brandon Brooks, but they bring back talent around the quarterback and a defense that was very good a year ago.
I've got one thing that bodes poorly for them, 2 things that bodes well for them. They have 4 short week road games. That'll wear on you.
Yep.
That's from Warren Sharp, who's big on scheduling inequities. 4 short week road games. That's a lot. On the positive side, last year they faced Mahomes, Brady, Prescott twice, Herbert, Carr. This year, the best quarterback they face is probably Dak Prescott in division rivalry. Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, nothing in the same level. A very friendly schedule defensively for quarterbacks you're facing. I can't believe their schedule. I am up on them after looking through what they have ahead of them this year. And we talked about this. You brought this up last year, and I think this is a really good sign for them. Nick Sirianni changed mid-season last year and adapted. He passed 20% less after 8 games last year. That tells me here's a coach who can look at his team, self-evaluate, isn't married to his concepts, but will adapt to his talent, what they're doing well, what they're not doing well. I thought that was a fantastic sign for them. I don't want to like the Eagles, but I'm liking them. Reddick and Jordan Davis, too, as a combination added to the defensive front. That's effective, and it's a bad division.
And they have Brandon Graham. Fletcher Cox is back. They released him. They re-signed him. They've worked within the salary cap restraints there. And at running back, they'll use multiple backs, but they were very efficient. Going into the postseason until they met the Bucs, which is the number 1 run defense in the NFL for the last 3 years, they were running at a clip of over 200 yards as a team per game. And they do that very well. They have now added A.J. Brown in the mix to a group that includes Dallas Goedert at tight end and, of course, at wide receiver Devontae Smith as well. If all things being even, and we're just judging teams on their health right now, even though they finished 9-8, Chad, a year ago, this is a sneaky good team that's being overlooked.
Yeah, re-signed Derek Barnett also, who's been a bit disappointing as a first-round pick, but they've got him coming back. Good player, depth also.
Yes.
Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, 2 good running backs. Jalen Hurts was not terrible a year ago. I would describe it as a solid season. 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 10 rushing touchdowns, completed almost 62% of his passes. This is definitely a prove-it year for Jalen Hurts. But if he just steps up a bit, from solid to good, good to great, right? I think this is a sneaky, great team.
He's my worry. He's my worry for them.
Yeah,
I don't love Hurts.
They've got to find consistent play from him because they're not seeing that in camp to this point. It's been, if you just went down every day and just said good or bad, and that was your only description, it's very up and down. It's good, bad, good, and then you look around, you're like, well, you're still seeing solid play from the wide receiver core in the starting group, and once they get their full group together, it should be okay. But it Hurts has to be consistent. I love that he took the hit, got right back up, and then finished a drive. He was really good a week ago. So, but take that for what it's worth. It's just a snapshot in a preseason game. But there's a lot of pressure on him, and he recruited A.J. Brown. They were working out prior to the trade. This is something that it's hard to overlook how much they wanted to play with each other within this offense. So
we think they're competing with Dallas for the crown, or we think they're second place?
No, they're in the mix. But look, this is you brought up a great point about the schedule with the short weeks. I mean, I think that does play a factor, and the inconsistency of the quarterback plays a factor. I think this is a December team, right? And they're not the 7th seed. They're not the 7th seed like we saw a year ago. Was they 6 or 7?
They were
6 because they went on the road at Tampa. Tampa was the 2 last year, right?
Yeah. Who was the 7 in the NFC last year?
I'll
look it up. I'll find it.
Maybe it was Philly.
I want to say Philly was the last in, but okay. I'll check it out.
Well, 7 would have played 2.
Oh yeah, so that's it.
Because there's no bye.
There's no bye. The one bye. That's right. So there was 7. They went on the road and were destroyed by Tampa. Washington. This is I think they're just a 500 team, guys. They add Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz doesn't suck, but he's also not playoff caliber. He's not a big-time quarterback. But they upgrade at quarterback. Keep that in mind. From a 7-10 team, they've upgraded at quarterback, even though everyone's hating on Carson Wentz. They draft Dotson from Penn State, who has had a very good offseason. And while they lose Ryan Fitzpatrick, again, they've upgraded at starter because they're not looking at Taylor Heineke. Heineke's now the backup. It's the inconsistent quarterback play that worries me, and the fact that the defense took a step back a year ago after 2020 season where they were among the top defenses in the entire NFL.
Yeah, that was my big issue. I thought Washington's defense would be really good last year. It wasn't. Third down defense, 48.5% touchdown rate, second highest in the league. Bad pass defense. And just didn't make any really changes to the secondary or that are going to impact that. They have a much easier schedule again, not quite as quarterback free as Philly. They get Aaron Rodgers, but after that, the best quarterbacks they face: Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence. So it's an easier path. I would expect the defense to bounce back some. Look, they were 2-4 in the division last year. The 2 wins were over a crappy Giants team, and one of them was Week 18 against Jake Fromm. That's 2 days in a row I've gotten to talk about Jake Fromm. But they're going to have to do better in the division to contend, and I think it's a third-place team.
Well, they need Chase Young to come back off the ACL. He's still on PUP.
Monster.
He's still on PUP right now.
Yeah, there's not a lot to just really love about this team. I do like their 3-headed monster at running back with Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Brian Robinson Jr. A player to watch for me is a 5th-round pick, Cole Turner, who is a 6'7", 240-pound basketball-playing former wide receiver from Nevada, who is going to be a tight end. But when we see these hybrid tight ends that are athletic, that's a guy for me to watch. You got to really dig, though, to find things to love about this Washington team. And that's even after we are saying, I agree with you guys, it's an upgrade at quarterback to Carson Wentz. from the situation they had a year ago. He's an easy punchline right now, but I think they're better at quarterback. I just don't see this team. This is one of those, we're making those tiers of the division. It's Cowboys, Eagles, pretty sizable drop-off to get to Commanders, Giants in that division.
So they have to be a team offensively that is built through the run with Wentz. The one thing not to overlook, though, that I have done this offseason is remember Wentz only threw 7 interceptions a year ago. That was not what we would consider a great pack of wide receivers in Indy. I mean, they have Pittman, right? They had an older T.Y. Hilton. But as far as the group is concerned, they've got a lot of number 3 and number 4s that if they win in the free agent market, they're not being signed to be number 2.
Deals.
They're getting 1-year deals like Zach Pascal, I believe, who's now in Philly. So now in Washington, he's playing with Jahan Dotson, who now is opposite Terry McLaurin, who just got signed to the big money deal. So they've got some playmakers at wideout, but I think that only plays a factor if they can get their run game going with Antonio Gibson. And they have Brian Robinson, who they're high on, and who the reports out of Washington, he's having a very good camp, the rookie running back out of Alabama. So can they find consistency with the run game and stick with that allows the pressure to not be on Wentz to go win games in the fourth quarter?
And you got to stop some people on defense, particularly on third down and in the red zone.
Yeah.
And that's pass defense, and I think they're just counting on people to get better because they didn't really do much, and I don't know.
How hot is Ron Rivera's seat in Washington?
He's done so much, Chad, I think, to settle the football side of things and to keep it buffered from all of the nonsense that's gone on the administrative side. I think he's highly respected. I'd be kind of surprised, unless they really bottom out, if he's in trouble. And he's one of those guys, I'd say, who you getting that's better than Ron Rivera? I know everybody now thinks, well, if O'Connell had success, if the next batch of young guys had success, just go get a young guy. But that seems easier than it is. I think Ron Rivera, last year was a big disappointment, but I think he's a better coach than he gets credit for a lot of times.
Yeah. It comes down to, can Ron Rivera just coach and not have to worry about sending out statements on behalf of the organization every week?
He needs to stick to the football side of it and keep some stability, because I do agree that he adds some gravitas, stability to the football side of it that I don't know if you're Washington, you want to go in a direction of a completely unproven young guy now.
You need a figurehead.
Well, and look, go out and play well and win more than expected, and he's going to be just fine.
Coming up, our preview of the Vanderbilt Commodores as they are headed into game week against Hawaii. And wait until you hear what a member of the Hawaii staff is saying about Vandy coming to town.
Quote of the season so far.
Coming to their state. Quote of the season so far is with Hawaii.
You don't come to Hawaii and mess around.
Our SEC spotlight on the Vanderbilt Commodores is next on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. Vanderbilt will take on Hawaii to begin their regular season. And as we begin our look at the Vanderbilt Commodores going into 2022, we start with an example of how Hawaii feels about the matchup. Here is a staff member discussing Vanderbilt on the road in week 0 playing Hawaii.
Timmy's done a great job. You know, again, 52 new kids in here. That's never been done in college football. Never has a team had that big a turnover. And to get these guys all going in the same direction, which they are, is an incredible accomplishment by Timmy and his staff. And then additionally, changing a culture and giving a team back to the state, it's been amazing to be a part of. I cannot wait for that moment when we come out into that stadium. And I know there's going to be 9,300 people there, but I will bet you that the energy is going to be like there's 90,000 in that stadium. And you know, this is such a special place. Vanderbilt has no idea what they're getting into. You know, when we start waving those tea leaves and that our kids do the fans, as intense as our fans are, it's just going to be so, so special.
That's Hawaii football director of player development, Jeff Reinbold, discussing the Vanderbilt Commodores in week number 1 for Hawaii and Vanderbilt on their college football season. Vanderbilt doesn't know what they're getting into. Talking with Clark Lee, he wants to make sure that you don't land in Hawaii and treat it like a vacation, and you treat it more like one of those preseason or regular season tournaments that we would see a college basketball coach go on the road, and you have a great bonding moment over the week or so that you're there. But this is when you see the 2.5 wins, it's over under 2.5 for Vanderbilt in Vegas. You see the first 2 games, Hawaii and Elon. And if you believe that they're winning both of those games, then you're taking the over, aren't you?
Yeah. It's not going to feel like 90,000 people. It's going to feel like 9,000 people. And they've played in front of a lot of people. They play in SEC stadiums all over the Southeast. So this guy's delusional.
Well, Vandy plays away games at home. I mean, they know what tough atmospheres are like. They roll into their own stadium
with
at
more
times.
Than plenty more than 9,000.
It's an away game.
But keep in mind, this to me shows a status of a program or how it was viewed, because this is not the Clark Lee regime that scheduled these games, but they're going on the road at Hawaii in week 0. An SEC school's doing that. They're going on the road against Northern Illinois a few weeks later on the road. They will be hyped up because an SEC school is visiting them, and that's their bowl game.
Yeah.
They're playing the SEC. Regardless of who's on the helmet, they're playing the SEC. So that is a difficult element to prepare for, because it's a smaller stadium than it is like, oh, we've been to Athens before. We've been to Vanderbilt Stadium before because Athens was there as well. It's a different mentality that he wants his team to take there.
No one respects Vandy when they play them, and that's not Clark Lee's fault.
Right.
You know, that's just what he inherited and where they've been traditionally. It's an odd schedule because that 2.5 over-under, I would hammer the over on it. But look at the schedule. They have their 4 non-conference games to start the season in 4 consecutive weeks. And then it is 8 straight SEC games after that.
And it's a gauntlet.
So even if they beat Hawaii and Elon, well, they got to beat Wake Forest, who's preseason 22nd in the nation at home, or go on the road to NIU and win. Because outside of that, at Alabama,
big dogs.
Then they get a bye week. Then it's Ole Miss at home. It is at Georgia, at Missouri, another bye week, South Carolina at home, at Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee to end the season. So it's tough to find another win unless they upset someone. Now, they should have beat South Carolina on the road a year ago. They're going to have a game like that. They're better this year than they were last year. So that's not to say that they're not going to have Ole Miss on the ropes late, right? Or have a great game at Missouri and have a chance to win. That's going to happen once or twice in SEC play, but there's no penciling in a W at any point after those first 2 games.
I wrote about the transfer portal and team chemistry. That isn't much of a thing at Vandy, but they lose their great left tackle to Bama, where he's in line, Tyler Steen. They get a guy from UConn at corner, UConn, who they beat by 2 points when they should have killed them. That must have really been impressive in that game to go get help there. And the replacement for the left tackle, Brenner, is from North Texas. So they've got some supplementary pieces, at least, to fill in the cracks out of the portal. But they're young. Their best people are young.
They have a long way to go. Clark Lee knows that. He knows what he's trying to change the mentality. I would take the under 2.5.
I have.
I think they are identical record-wise to a year ago, but we see considerable improvement because of 2 guys that wear the same number. I think A.J. Swan, number 13, is going to be starting quarterback for them, freshman, by midpoint of the season or the end of the year, where they're trying to get him reps. Because in watching their team, if you watch him spin the football and watch him diagnose the field, he's making more plays with his arm and from the pocket than any of the other guys. But the problem is, and why they're going to start Mike Wright in against Hawaii early in the season, they have to have some mobility, because that's their best asset right now is Mike Wright's athleticism outside the pocket. And they need to ride that while they get the freshman ready. He looks very good playing against Vanderbilt in a scrimmage that I watched. So let's first mention that. A.J. Swan. C.J. Taylor is a safety for them. Also wears number 13. He is
from?
Oh, he's from my high school, Warren County.
He is. The Pioneer.
I did not expect him to jump up the depth chart the way he has. On the depth chart that you'll find online, he's listed at linebacker. They are moving him all around the field, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing some safety, some deep safety, and he diagnoses screens, which is massive in college football. That's going to help their defense. They have a very young core that will be really evident a year from now, but it's hard for me not to see them turn things over to the younger group as the season progresses, because I think you have to get a look at what you have and where you want to recruit again, right? So I think that might be the most difficult decision of the season, is when to turn the channel and turn it into the young, because you mentioned the SEC stretch. There's no week where it just makes sense to make that happen. And because of that, I think they take their lumps because they're playing a lot of freshmen.
And again, they got no FCS break late in the year. They get Elon in week 2, and then it's they get their 4 non-conference games out of the way the first 4 weeks, then move on to that 8 straight brutal SEC schedule for Vanderbilt. Ramon Davis coming back, I think, is big as a senior. Got injured last year. He's a heavy hitter as a running back for Vanderbilt. I think he's going to help them in the ball control game at times too. So I'm going to take the over of 2.5. I don't think it's more than 3, but I see this as they're going to start. I'm fairly confident in saying, regardless of what the Hawaii director of player personnel wants to say, I think they're starting 2-0, and they're going to find a win somewhere else.
Yep.
Northern Illinois lost one of their school's career leaders in receptions, receiving yards. In camp also, which is a big loss for them. So it's amazing to me how everyone just looks at that game and says, oh, Northern Illinois is way better than you think. And they've got something for Vandy when they come up there.
They score more. Well, I mean, that sounds easy. But
we asked the question, too, over 30 touchdowns on offense. I would take the under on that, too, because, again, they're developing more around trying to build their depth and get some of these guys experience. They had 13 passing touchdowns to 14 interceptions a year ago. Yeah, they had 8 rushing touchdowns.
They scored 17 or fewer 6 times.
Well, and they scored 20 or more 3 times, and they lost all 3 of those games. Yeah. I mean, that's the key, is even when they were scoring more than 20, it's not like their defense was stepping up to allow their offense to it's very difficult. It was not good last year. They lost to East Tennessee. They owned it as a coaching staff, but this is a slow climb out of where they are. And Derek Mason left them with an OVC roster. And it sounds like a knock, but the SEC it is on their roster. And what they inherited was not good. The depth not good. But the light that you can see is the recruiting class, and why I'm pointing to the freshmen, because you've got to get those guys in, or those guys are going to move on. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Oh,
If you're better than who's in front of you and you're not getting playing time, the transfer portal is open.
He doesn't want the program to function that way, Clark Lee, but, you got to.
Here's how I want the program to function if I'm Clark Lee. If you believe in the guys you brought in, play all of them. And I'm not saying play someone who's not as talented as a senior or junior.
Like on the lines.
Who's going to play them, but get them in there, keep them engaged, and keep them around.
Yeah, the secondary, skill positions, quarterback.
You need carryover.
Yep.
You need freshmen and sophomore playing that are going to be sophomores and juniors a year from now that are all together.
Paul, plug your column at OutKick.
I wrote about the kids' baseball tryouts and the tension it creates in a family. A lot of people relating to it. I know you've gone through it too, so check it out.
Also now at OutKick.com, Zach Dean with the column, a plane misses runway because both pilots fell asleep. Enjoy that one. Enjoy that nightmare fuel. And have a great weekend. We're back at it on Monday.
Don't block the box, but do lock the locks. See ya.